was born to hold the blade. Hear the whispers in my blood, know I love the chase. Tired of giving out my fate. My candy eyes, they lure you in, I don't leave no trace. I'm good or evil, it's a coin toss, 50-50 test shot. Play the game, you're hiding, but you're crawling, I can see you in my eyes. Time's up, laughing when it gets dark. Doors open, count it down. I'm no average villain, danced on the edge, moving like a thread. See you in the mirror all this time, I feel so alive. My heart beats so loud when the light is on, it's sabotage. Flying, shaking off the pain. Play with the fire, we're burning a cliff. So ride, it's running in my veins. Found my ego in the battlefield. Don't you know I never missed a storm? Dance through the dark spotlight hunter. I can take a seat, I'll make it roar. Curtain call, show you my true color. Flying, shaking off the pain. Play with the fire, we're burning a cliff. So ride, it's running in my veins. Found my ego in the battlefield. Get you hurt.
Check, 1, 2, 3. I have an announcement to make. I busted out of my shell, bet you can tell. Turn the page and empty shade, a little crazy off the rails. This is all me, I'm a wild, I'm a free. Souping up the wheels right out of the gate. I'm a going all the way. This is how I roll. Watch me, here I go. Watch me. Ready for the show. Watch me, here I go. So bring that strut, 'cause now I'm gonna stand out. They start struck. Yeah, if I come to stand out. Go, do it like the stars do it, ain't no messing around. Posing in the bright lights, yeah, go to town. I'ma tell you what's up, 'cause now I'm gonna stand out. Stand out. I'ma stand out. I'ma stand out. I see you wiggle your head around my breaking neck, but I bring the wild factor in the suit of smile. I know you stick around. Don't need no fluorescent traffic lights, but I got the light for the right side. Let it out, let it ride. Now I'm floating to the sky. Stand out. I'ma stand out. Stand out. About time. Stand out.
The pain you feel is a gift of awareness.
time to get to work. Rule 1 of bounty hunting. Maximize returns. Reduce cost. Don't waste bullets. Rule 2. Teamwork. We're based on Rule 1. I suggest no teams. Rule 3. No witnesses. No evidence. Keep a low profile. Only prey gets captured on camera.
So who's the old guy?
I don't know. But he has possession of the Skynet Mandelbrick rafter.
Good thing we acted early.
Let's make this quick.
The wolves are circling.
Identify the target. Do not shoot.
Don't worry. I respect my elders.
That's right. And honors don't kill cubs.
I've lost visual.
Expanding search area.
Bring it on, Grandpa!
Guy. What a pain. Don't shoot. She's just knocked out.
Where's the Mandelbrick?
Find it yourself. Next time, try not to lose sight of your enemy.
Who the hell are you?
Long story. Oh, look who's here.
Cut the crap! Whoever you are, just tell me where the Mandelbrick is and I'll let you go!
My intel doesn't come cheap.
Advise you to stay out of this!
It's a little late for that.
We're going home, Landon.
Enemy attack! Activating fault system. Bury them here. Leave the Mandelbrick behind.
They're gonna bury us! Move it! Listen! The brick cannot fall into the hands of GTI High Command! Go! Forget the damn brick! Get back!
No one gets left behind!
Are you certain you saw it happen?
I'm positive. Saw the brick get buried in the fault with my own eyes.
A fault. A large fire was started by the Asara Guard in Layali Grove. Preparations are...
There's some things you need to know.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome into the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare North America Semifinals. I'm Goj, and I'm so excited to be back with you yet again for another Delta Force broadcast. I've got maybe a new face to some, but an old face to others. Another co-caster joining me this time around. Gonna be working with Vivid, my goat. Dude, welcome to the broadcast. How you feeling about some Warfare action?
I mean, I'm feeling good about it, Coach. Thank you so much for the introduction. What's going on, Delta Force gang? It is such a pleasure to be a part of season number 3 right here. I've been keeping an eye on some of the past competitions that have been circling around the Warfare. Of course, if anybody knows me, I'm usually tied to operations, right? So I always jump in and kind of watch those operations as well. But it's so awesome to be a part of the Warfare here today. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be so fun. It's going to be utter chaos as per the usual. And I'm sure we're going to see some of the best players in the game battling it out for a spot in the finals. Let's talk a little bit about the format for today, though. For those that have watched Delta Force Global League, it is very similar to what we've done in the past with a couple key differences. This is semifinals. We've got 4 participating teams. I'm talking teams of 20 players, folks. That's right. We're playing Victory Unite, and it's a single best of 3 on each side of our bracket. So we will do Group A and then we will do Group B. So you're going to see 2 of these teams battling at each of those times. And as we get into it, basically, we've got all of these maps on the right-hand side of your screen that we could play. But since it's a single best of 3, we will play one of those maps twice for round 1 and round 2. If a team is able to win both the attack and the defense on, let's say we go to Ascension, then they win that best of 3 and they move on to the finals, which is next week. However, if it is a tie, if one team wins on the attack and then loses on the defense when they swap, we will then get a third map, which will be a different map of that 7. And there are some tiebreakers. You can see them down below on how it's chosen. Essentially, the best team will get to choose what they want. Either they can choose attack or defend, or they can choose the map, and the other will choose the other. So really excited as we get into that. I'm sure we're going to go to game 3 at least once today. We will play Group A and then Group B back to back on this broadcast. So when this first best of 3 ends, don't go anywhere because we're going to do it again for Group B. Now let's talk a little bit about the pricing of the overall Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare for North America. This is our pricing for the entirety of this competition, which means majority of this pricing, top Slayer, top Medic, first and second place, that's all going to be handed out next week when we get to the finals. However, we've got our 4 teams already, and so you can see if you maybe don't make it to the finals, your team is still walking away with a little bit of cash. It's $1,000 split between everybody, so a decent little payday, even if you don't win today, just for making it to this stage, because we did have a series of online qualifiers, or in-game qualifiers rather, getting to this online stage. So that's how that all works. That's the pricing. That's the format. It might be quick. It might be a long one if we go the distance every time. Vivid, we love talking about this with Warfare. I know you've watched a lot of these. You've played Warfare yourself. And it really is a roll of the dice to see how long these competitions will take. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of have high hopes for the going the distance, right, Coach? We know there was a little bit of a draft that kind of went out to actually seed some of these teams, right? So we know that, if the captains were kind of paying attention to when they actually went ahead and picked their teams, then they should be pretty balanced teams. And as we know, when the teams are pretty balanced, it should go the distance. We should have some long Warfare matches, which I'm excited for, right? Because it gives everybody the opportunity to show off their skill set and show us why they deserve to be in the finals next weekend.
Yeah, that's a really good shout, because the in-game qualifiers are like through public matches and it's a kind of easy process to follow. But for this competition, you're right. It is Victory Unite, which means these squads, they might not even know each other. Maybe they didn't even know the other people on their team ever existed until they got into the Discord and were getting drafted. They did pick their commanders, or our groups were randomized, and then all the players in that group, the captains of each of those squads, picked the commanders, voted on who they thought the 2 commanders of their group stages should be, and then those 2 commanders drafted each of the squads based on whatever info they had, or maybe they just thought their name looked cool. So I totally agree with you. I do think it'll be pretty balanced, but who knows who could swing for the fences here. And excited to talk a little bit about these teams. So let's take a look at our bracket. Again, only 4 total teams. If you hear us say the word team, we're talking about the entire team of 20. When we say squad, that's going to be your teams of 4 inside of each of these teams, if you will. So here are our 4 teams. Now, all of our squads came in with either organization names or friend group names names or gaming names, whatever you want to call it. And then the captains, the commanders, they chose the overall team name for this squad. 5 squads underneath the Squirtle squad, for instance, the Division, Legacy, and the Avengers. So those are our 4 teams. Group A is Squirtle squad and the Division. So Vivid, I'd like to take a bit of a look at these 2 teams to take a look at all of our individual squads.
Gotta say, I feel like the commanders on some of the sides here took a little bit more serious when they were trying to pick like an intimidating team name, right? Obviously, Squirrel team Matt Freeze. Now, of course, we know that the players gave respect to these commanders, right? They were the ones that actually went ahead and picked them. So you would imagine that not only do they respect them, but we know how important it is in Victory Unite, Goj, to go ahead and actually listen to your commander. So the fact that they picked these guys means that they need to go ahead and listen to them because they've already kind of given them that respect. But I know we were talking a little bit about it before, right? You were kind of, talking about some players that were catching your eye that are going to be playing today. Go ahead and tell me about them.
Look, if folks have been paying attention to the Delta Force Global League, I'm sure that you know the Bear teams. There are 2 Bear teams, one of which is shown in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there. Lobot, this team is very talented. They have done great things through the course of Delta Force Global League, but I also have to always highlight the Syndicate. First of all, this squad, they change rosters a little bit every time they show up, but the Syndicate always performs, man. Zen Seer is the leader of that squad. He actually was voted as the commander of the Squirtle squad and then elected to give it away to Extermania because Extermania spoke multiple languages and would be a better commander. This guy knows ball, he knows the game, and I'm going to be honest, he's either going to be top fragging or a top scorer right underneath this commander, I can only assume. And of course, on that roster, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, fantastic player, Randy Savage competed in a lot of our events. Mr. Wormy TV, notoriously is one of the best vehicle operators we've seen, especially when it comes to the skies. So watch out for the Syndicate, but I'm excited about all of our squads, of course, and we'll continue to talk about them as we get into the games. And speaking of the games, Vivid, for Group A, we are headed to Cracked.
Ooh, Cracked is an interesting map, right? I think the vehicles are going to go ahead and play a big part of that, but I can tell you right now from playing Warfare, Cracked is a crazy map that has so many of those like head glitches that we see in like FPSs from time to time. I don't know. I just feel like I can already picture myself. As soon as I saw Crack kind of pop up on the screen right there, I was instantly kind of thinking about all the spots that I like to kind of defend from. There's so many different angles that kind of get crazy. But I also feel like on the attacking side, I like the flanks and everything that you can kind of pull off on, if you're on the attacking side and you're kind of looking towards the objective that you're pushing at. On that right side over there, we're kind of like those hills are kind of all over there. There's so many opportunities for you to kind of go on that side of the road over there and get some flanks in over there. So, I was never somebody to kind of go ahead and pay attention to that, but I can almost guarantee you in like a competitive setting where it's going to be 20 to 20, somebody's going to be looking to take advantage of a route like that.
No, it's a really good shot. Honestly, Cracked is probably one of the most played because it's one of the original maps that Delta Force added into the game. It's actually, I don't want to get too deep into the lore, but you all probably know this. It's actually one of the original maps of the original Delta Force that they remade and rebuilt in this new age version of Delta Force. So really cool lore. Been around a long time with Delta Force. Cracked is an OG map and everybody knows that. We also know that it's technically a 3-point map in terms of only A, B, and C. Yes, there's multiple capture points on each of those, but Cracked is what I would call a shorter map in terms of actual distance you have to travel. I mean, compare this to even just Ascension, for instance, totally different style, and you're 100% right. Always when it comes to Warfare, vehicle gameplay is huge. However, I think in Cracked, it's going to be even more important because there's technically less vehicles on this map than some of the other Warfare maps. And so if you're able to control the vehicles on this map, you're going to have a huge advantage, especially if you can shoot down the vehicles that are called in, likely by the commander on the other squad.
Yeah, I think the single individual, just the gunplay from some of our, players today are going to be exemplified on this map, right? Goj kind of already making the point that, hey, listen, less vehicles on this map, which means that the importance of the gunplay in general, right? Kind of like synchronizing a push towards an objective or somewhere on the map, just as a squad, just as, bodies on the point is going to be ever so much more important on a map like this. So we'll have to see if they can go ahead and kind of sort that out. Obviously, big shout out to the commanders, right? There's going to be a lot of pressure on them to kind of go ahead and actually make something like that happen. And, listen, I didn't get to talk about it yet, but, got to tip the hat, right? Giving up the commander spot to make sure everybody on the teams can go ahead and understand the comms. That could literally be the difference maker, especially on a map like this.
Yeah, no, it's a really good shot. It's been fun to kind of watch our players talk about strategy, talk about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, who's split up on engineer duty, who's going to be playing more recon duty, get the Luna arrows down. I mean, there's a lot that goes into Warfare, and I think the fun part about these competitions is we hop into the game and we see it get going. I want to remind everybody, the fun part, well, there's going to be a crazy amount of action. It's non-stop chaos when it comes to Warfare. Squirtle Squad is going to be your attackers to start. They're going to be in red anytime we're looking at the perspective of our observers. So if you see red, that's going to be Squirtle Squad. That's going to be the attack. The defense will always be in green. So keep that in mind as we're going forward, as we get to the very first point. This is where, honestly, Vivid, this is how you set your game up for success. The longer you take on A, the worse it is for you when you get to some capture points that are a bit harder.
I loved fighting this on like defense, because there's like these little valleys that people always kind of run through, and it's like a straight shot towards them. So kind of holding it down for me was always such a treat. But I'm not gonna lie, as soon as the match kind of started and we jumped in, I saw Randy Savage off to the right over there. That path that me and Goj were kind of talking about to the right over here in the hills, I saw him taking that, you know, the ATV up here, and I saw him instantly put down a respawn point. So early on, already looking for those, you know, kind of flanks and establishing those beacons to make sure his team can kind of get established. And as you can see it right there off in the distance, that respawn beacon is down.
Yeah, respawn beacons, especially in competitive, are everything. If you're not playing your respawn beacons correctly, or you're not trying to shoot down the respawn beacons of your opponents, you will quickly find yourself losing ground. Now, a couple quick reminders. We are playing Victory Unite, which means our commanders can issue orders. It's extra ways to get points. As we see, the smokes are down. There's no question about it. And we are barrel stuffing our opponents. The commanders can earn extra points by giving orders that are successful, okay? So if they're able to say, hey, take this point, and you're able to do it within a certain amount of time, they get extra points. The commanders will earn a lot of extra points throughout the course of today's event, and as such, they are extremely important part of today's event, because they'll be the ones calling in a lot of those streaks, a lot of those support systems that we always see. More vehicles, maybe even mortar strikes, and who knows, maybe we'll see a guided missile. I'm sure we will if the games go long.
Yeah, definitely going to play a big role, right? That's how these teams are kind of going to establish dominance when it comes down to the vehicle gameplay, listening to your commander, making sure your commander is giving out good, you know, calls and everything like that your team can easily follow right here. And I'm not going to lie, Goj, kind of early on into this match, I was like, yeah, the attackers, they look like they're going to have a pretty good push. I saw right side was kind of flooding in, left side was kind of flooding in onto the point, but I don't see much progress anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, I felt very similarly, and then all of a sudden, the kill feed on the right was all green all day. The defense is just set up near flawlessly around the point. They've got a couple people kind of playing routeman on the outside to just pick up a couple freebies, but the point is held very effectively. Of course, anytime you capture a point, you'll be able to get some of those tickets or those lives back that you see top middle. But in Victory Night, you don't start with all that minis. Start with 175 on point A here on Cracked. We've already lost about 40 or so. And not to get too deep into every single minutia of some of the experience and strategic things you can do, but support is a huge role for competitions like this. You have to pick up, especially on the attacking side, you have to pick up your teammates, because these lives will go down very, very quick. Gotta get revives.
I mean, you want to talk about the 20v20 aspect, right? You know, we got to go ahead and highlight Randy again there, playing it so smart. He went way deeper on the flank than he maybe necessarily would have. If I was in like a public match, I would have, you know, ran right into the point, like, oh, listen, I'm on a flank. He kept flanking, and that has established a very good line of sight towards the back side of the point that hopefully the team can go ahead and utilize right there, as I do see him go down in the top right. But I saw a bunch of squad mates go ahead and spawn in on him during that flank. So, you know, maybe they can kind of make something of that. But again, you know, go just talking about top right. It's all green.
It's all green, man. It's looking like the defense is holding very well right now. And essentially, you start seeing real value on our overall scores. I think that's our first vehicle, by the way, that just came in for the attack. So this may be a difference maker. Chicka chicka boom boom on the outside, playing flank, like you said. This whole squad kind of playing a flanking position, but unfortunately not able to find an angle. Our first vehicle makes it to the point, and our attackers have found a move to get to A. We'll see if it works well for them.
Yeah, that wide right there, right? We saw a lot of red on the point. Look at all of that. And if you take a look at the top middle of your screen, it was pushing their way, but no. Now the box is kind of filling back up. More green is being established, which means that there are more defenders on the point than there are attackers. So they have reclaimed possession of this flag. And sure enough, look at that. That square towards the top of the screen, that's going to be filled all the way back up. I think the push was going ahead and thwarted right there.
Yeah, that's honestly impressive and also super unfortunate if you're the attack. Any momentum you had completely cut out, and you've got to set up again and then execute again. And we're now getting into the territory where this is a win overall. Regardless how the rest of this point plays out, this is going to be a win for the defense because they're burning tickets. They're burning lives. Our attackers will not get all of these lives back going into point B, even if they do capture. So far, so good for the division.
Incredible, right? You went ahead and mentioned the 175 tickets is what they were starting with. I think they called that vehicle in around 100, right? So if you kind of do some math right there, around 75 tickets before they got their first vehicle, and you were kind of talking about that momentum. You call in the vehicle, you're feeling good about it, the push works out, you start to take the point, and then boom, all of that's kind of thwarted, right? So until they get that next vehicle, that may be what it takes to go ahead and actually push onto the point. We'll have to see when that next vehicle kind of comes in.
Yeah, I want to say we briefly saw it on the side. You should see it on your screen here shortly. Our first tank spawn, I believe, for our attackers. First vehicle, I believe, was a transport vehicle mostly, with an armored gunner on top. But this is going to be a tank coming in for the attackers here in a moment. This should open things up quite dramatically if they're able to find some value with it and not lose it too quickly.
Tank would be huge, but you do have to be careful, right? The fact that they are so important means that you don't want to go ahead and get it blown up early on. So the engineers will be, an important role. But look at that, Goj. It's not the tank. They went ahead and pushed through with a different vehicle, and it's already on the point, but it's taken some damage.
Yeah, at this point, you can call it a tank in the sense that it's tanking the damage of just bullet sponge. Everybody's looking at this vehicle. Not one of the most powerful vehicles, transport vehicle with that gunner on top again. And that's namely because, frankly, they don't have a lot of score yet. They can't call in these tanks, and they're only getting what the map spawns in at the beginning. So maybe if we get really down to the wire on this first push, you could get a more valuable vehicle. But it maybe just drew enough attention for the attackers to make a nice sizable push over onto the point. You can see them all stacked up inside, and the smokes are in. Obviously, we've got a couple operators that can throw smokes. We're seeing a lot of stingers on the map, not only because of the quick revive, therapeutic gun, nice, but also those smoke lines, insanely important.
So that vehicle went down pretty fast, but it may have established a line right there. And if you see that first building on point A right there, that's just below that hill where a lot of the attackers are on. Once you kind of slide down that hill, you actually start to go ahead and capture the point. So these defenders are going to know that, right? If as soon as the point starts to get taken and they don't see anybody around them, they know that these attackers are kind of hiding and laying down on the backside of that building. It's kind of like a little bit of a cheeky spot to go ahead and pick up some of the extra points needed, as Asher is well aware of Randy Savage on the flank. Could you imagine if Asher doesn't turn around there and Randy Savage just gets so much value out of that flank?
Yeah, those are those moments. We talk a lot about macro and warfare and the team and what the team's doing, but there are moments of individual highlight hero level plays from some of our individuals, and that certainly could have been one of those there. Getting a quick look with, I would say new, I guess been in the game for a little bit while, but ever since the Delta Force Global League, Raptor, new operator, and a little bit of value of scouting with the drones, so far so good, I suppose, but generally speaking, a pretty wide variety of operators, but Stinger being very obvious pick for a lot of folks, at least at the beginning here at Cracked.
Yeah,
got a vehicle on the defense side here, Vivid, too.
The rescues are just so huge, and yeah, that vehicle could be the thing that goes ahead and win this point, right? As you can see right there, a lot of progress made towards capturing this point right there, so much so that it was actually almost at the halfway point. And as I say that, it looks like it's going to get there, and nope, I jinxed it.
Only 37 lives. This is kind of make or break, all right? We have to get a move on. We've got to get on this point, and here's the unfortunate thing. Yes, we got another transport vehicle for the attack, but we got a tank destroyer on the side of the defense, and woo, show me some value out of Tempest. Chicka chicka boom boom. Nice play.
Yeah, awesome to see that Tempest kind of getting some warfare love as well. That thing is wreaking havoc in operations right there. And as I saw, Randy Savage went ahead and picked up that vehicle that was wreaking havoc for the defensive side. And something that we don't necessarily see as much, I feel like, in warfare, the shield kind of coming out right there. They need to kind of establish some sort of a front line, so maybe that was kind of like their answer to it, but it doesn't look like it's getting much done. Goj, we got 20 tickets left.
This is brutal. I mean, this is incredibly unfortunate, I think, for the attackers. I don't see an opening for them. And again, the issue is, okay, there's our opening. I knew it was going to come in at the very end of this map. Wormy in a tank. Time to make a move. Now, the defense, again, because they picked up so much score in this battle, we've seen way more green than we've seen red. I was going to say, it may not be alive for long. The tank destroyer comes in, and everyone on the defense turns, immediately drops some of those magnetic bombs from Viren, as well as probably some AT4s. Unreal. Tank gone in a blink of an eye, and now all they have is an IFV.
Roger that.
Yeah, I mean, no progress being made. They're just getting stopped. And you can see right there when we kind of tune into the defenders, a lot of them playing that engineer role so much so that they're kind of like hiding in the back lines. They don't even have their guns out. They're just ready to go ahead and blow up some of those vehicles. They have done such a good job of making sure they get very minimum value. Those vehicles from the attacking side have not stayed along for long at all. And now it's going to be just about finishing off the last few tickets here for the defending side.
Wow. I thought maybe it was going to be a long one. And unfortunately, I think it was quite short. The division, the defense win in dominating fashion. The attack, I believe, just barely missed out on getting it to maybe 50%. And other than that, just about nothing was going their way. What a wild turn of events. What a wild way to start. I mean, it is cracked, and point A, it can be quite difficult on cracked, but I really expect us to get a bit further than that. The division locking it down perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, we had a conversation towards the start of things, which was just actually like 15 minutes ago. I'm not sure what happened. It's like we blinked and all of a sudden the match was over, but we talked about it. The teams felt like they should have been even, right? When we talked about how these teams actually came together, we were like, oh yeah, they should, go all the way. The maps are going to be very, very long, and the division proving us wrong very, very early on. It'll be interesting to see kind of jumping into the next match, because of course, if it's actually that, defense decided, or if this team is just that much better.
Yeah, no, that's a really good shout. Again, with cracked being a smaller map, these points are more difficult to take than some of the other points you could see on some of the larger and longer maps. But even still, I'm not saying I'm that surprised, because we have seen this happen before in the Delta Force Global League, but it is a wild way to start this competition. Now, of course, as a reminder, it is a best of 3. So we're going to be playing cracked again. We're going to switch sides. So the division will now go to the attacker side. And technically, in order to gain the advantage, the division just needs to capture point A, and they'll have the priority pick going into game 3, even if they don't win the entire map. But of course, if the division, as the attackers, win the entire map, then they will win this matchup, and Group A will be done in maybe less than an hour. Let's take a look back at some of the replays from that one, though, Vivid, because there were some highlights for sure. It was just mostly on the side of the defense.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The fact you go ahead and say that they're right, yeah, the defense did such a good job. I actually thought this one was going to be done early from the attackers, right? I thought the attackers were going to take A very, very early on. I went ahead and talked about it. I thought the respawn beacons kind of going down early on. I saw the left, right flanks going on. It all seemed simultaneous, and then just nothing ever really built up actually towards the point. So yeah, the defense doing such a great job. Yeah, some chinks in the armor when it comes to the flanks, but somewhere along the lines, they went ahead and picked them up, right? Made sure that no progress was made towards the actual point that needs to be captured. Great job.
Yeah, a great job indeed. And frankly, I will again tip my hat to the fact that they were able to take down vehicles immediately. Yeah. It is something that I watched all the comms in Discord leading up to this competition. It happens every single competition. The team that prioritizes either destroying vehicles or utilizing them effectively usually wins in warfare. It's the name of the game. It's an incredibly important piece of the strategy of warfare, and so far the division have perfectly executed in our competition thus far. We're going to take a very short break here in the booth while we get our second map ready to go. Again, we were headed back to cracked. We were swapping sides, and we're going to be right back into the game here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Check, 1, 2, 3. I have an announcement to make. I'm busting out of my shell, bet you can tell. Turn the page and empty shade, a little crazy on the rails. your neck, but I bring the wild factor in the suit of smile. I know you stick around. Don't need the fluorescent traffic lights, but I got the light for the right side. Let it out, let it ride. Now I'm floating to the sky.
Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare North American Semi-Finals. We are back and already done with round one, Vivid. It was a quick one. Maybe the folks that are coming in a little bit late to the broadcast, you're like, oh, I'm only like 30 minutes late. I'm fine. No, you're not. We've already missed all of round one. We're moving into round two, and it is make or break for the Squirtle squad back on Cracked, Vivid.
Yeah, they've got to go ahead and make something happen. A little bit of a break in between the matches, of course, to go ahead and make sure that everybody is back in the lobby. Everybody's kind of ready to go. Maybe that's what they need, right? A little bit of a warm-up match, and then when they jump back into things, they're like, okay, we got it. But, of course, we've already had that kind of conversation goes. Is it about, necessarily the team in general, where the comms kind of not coming in? Is it going to be like a side thing? Or are they just going to be way better on the defending side? I'm very, very excited to see how this one kind of pans out, but I mean, if the division is that much of a better team, we might be in for a very fast first round here.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. And I think, one of the things we always talk about with Delta Force Global League, especially when it comes to Warfare, is that, yes, we have squads that qualified for this, but then they came together and created a full team of 20. And so one of the things that might be happening, we're not listening into all the comms behind the scenes, but what might be happening is just some communication errors, communication on when do we push, how do we push. I mean, you and I were talking during the break a little bit about vehicle usage. I mean, as much as Cracked, I was saying it's not a huge vehicle map in terms of the amount of vehicles you can pump out. Even in point A, we saw 2 infantry vehicles coming in from the attacker side. They did get a tank that lasted maybe 15 seconds. And then I think that at the very end, they had an IFV. And so the defense, they were able to call in a tank destroyer pretty early because of the amount of score that they had racked up. And that tank destroyer wrecked everything else. And the defense set up perfectly to take down vehicles instantly upon their arrival. So communication error, or maybe just the other team has better communication. I don't know, but it certainly could be a big piece of the puzzle. So we'll see if maybe they improve upon that. Let's take a look at some of the scores, though, from that last map. Here's our overall leaderboard. And, of course, the win on the side of the division. What jumps out off the page to you, Vivid?
Definitely, it was insane kind of looking at the score, right? We kind of talked about, kind of like the vehicle users and impact and everything like that. Obviously, being on the losing side of things, we know there's going to be some disparities over there, but, only 2 players kind of reaching that 10,000 score threshold. When you kind of take a look over towards the division, 13 players kind of reaching that threshold as well. Also kind of MVP probably up there towards the top. I love to go ahead and point out, the revives that kind of come in. I mean, 52, I feel like, is a pretty crazy amount. Go ahead and continuously establish that defense, right? And, it's also way more important, right? The revives on a map that we don't necessarily see so many vehicles on. We talked about how it's going to be all about just the manpower. If you're actually getting those revives off on a map where that manpower actually matters, and to me, you got to be the MVP.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, for those that play Warfare all the time and you're playing public matches and your teammates aren't picking you up, take this as a case study, and I don't know, drop the link in game chat or something, because this is what we have to see when you're playing high level warfare. You have to see a lot of revives, and frankly, the fact that Venom over here on the defending side had the most revives over even the attacking side is also a blunder. Now, I will shout out Hazuka Maki there in second overall in score on the Squirtle squad with 43. That is a solid amount. And you also see Hayes Azu as well with 43. Nice job overall. We gotta get more revives up big time though on the attacking side in order to save some of those lives. And I think one of the issues were the way they were taking their pushes. It was kind of like a split push. We'd have one main line that would go up with one of those vehicles, and we'd have a bunch of flankers, and everybody was kind of stacked inside of a building. And so when one person died, almost everybody died, and so they weren't able to pick up all those revives. But either way you look at it, it was a division all day, every day in our first round. 224,000 overall score and some change, with it looks like almost 60 more kills overall as well. And as the defense, usually you see higher numbers there, but even still, this is utter domination.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, we saw it happen in real time. Match took about 15 minutes, so a pretty quick one. That Squirtle squad is going to have to brush off, make sure that they're kind of mentally reset for kind of jumping into map number 2. Goj, of course, brought it up before, right? These teams are now going to be swapping sides. So now Squirtle Squad is going to have the opportunity to do exactly what the Division just did and stop them early on in their tracks on the defensive side.
Yeah, we are headed back to Cracked, and this could be the last game of Group A if the Division is able to walk all the way to the finish line. Again, it is important that the Division needs to get past Group A, but for the Division to win right here and for us not to play Game 3, they actually have to take every single point and win the map. So just because the Squirtle squad loses this very first point potentially, it doesn't mean they lose the overall matchup. We'll still go to Game 3. The priority will just go to the side of the Division if they get past point A. But like I said before, they could take every single point and win outright and going 2-0 as the attackers on Cracked. I know it can be difficult on Cracked, but it certainly has been done, not only in competitions like this, but also just quite literally the Delta Force globally. We played Cracked last season and saw a team do just that with some crazy strats. I think they drove a tank up and over the buildings on the right side of point B. I think it was B2. Drove over the buildings and were pointed down into the point, blowing it to smithereens. It was insane, Vivid. We'll see if maybe we get some crazy strats from our North America squad, Mr. Wormy. I will say, to shout out them as well, they, of the 4 players on their squad, all 4 of them were in the top 5, I think, on our leaderboard. Yeah. They were dominating on the side of the attackers, just couldn't quite piece it all together for the overall team.
Yeah, I mean, we kept tuning in with them. That it always seemed like they were kind of in a position that seemed like they were going to be able to find some sort of impact out of it, right? Mr. Werby, of course, was, you know, typically up on top of the hill, kind of picking off a lot of those defenders. Randy was obviously very, very clearly always going for the flank right there. So they definitely had something kind of going on, some kind of thought process going into that led to a very good performance out of the squad individually and, you know, as a collective. But yeah, like you mentioned, just nothing was kind of ever built off of the top of any of their kind of pushes or nothing like that. And, you know, I love the fact that you were kind of bringing it up earlier before, right? When we were talking about those revives, we were like, oh man, the attackers, there's so many flanks kind of coming in. But every single time we tuned in one of those flanks, right, they were kind of like this solo man out. There's no real push behind them, right? So those revives can't come in when you're kind of making plays like that. So maybe they needed to, you know, regroup back with the team or something like that to kind of find a little bit more of an impact as a team, because we kind of talked about the importance of that too.
Yeah, no, I like that shout. I would be curious to know if they would have played maybe a bit more closer to the team. Could they have had a huge impact, or would it have been worse? Who knows? But we got to change our thought process completely, because now if you're a Squirtle Squad fan, if you're a Syndicate fan, for instance, with our North America squad, you've got to be talking about defense. What works well on point A and Cracked? Well, you just got a good example of it. A perfectly set up defense that was willing to give some of the point away in order to maintain bodies in a position to shoot back onto the point. There was a bit of an ebb of flow from the defense. I'm excited to see what they're able to do here going into the defensive side and show us a different version of the Squirtle squad than what we saw in the very first round here, Vivid.
All right, huge thing to go ahead and happen here in match number 2, Goj. We kind of already talked about, we don't get it too far ahead of ourselves, but the first point, of course, is going to mean a lot. Whether or not we kind of go to a game number 3, or at the bare minimum, whether or not the division will have at least an advantage kind of going into that game number 3. It'll be very, very interesting to kind of see how the dynamic kind of changes, right? If we're going to see some more of those kind of flank plays coming in, if they're just going to kind of run it up the middle, try to get some smokes down, try to throw bodies on the point, and how their vehicles end up playing on this first point.
It's a great shout. Well, it's time for the game. Let's see what our attackers are able to do. One of the things that I usually mention with Cracked as well, I'll mention here, Cracked is very momentum based. Most of Warfare is, but this map in particular. So if the attack come out swinging right off rip, you can see point A go within the first 10 to 15 lives.
Instantly already saw the same strategy as well. You know how I talked about it before, where Randy would kind of use that ATV to go up that right side and then put a respawn beacon down. Already saw the attackers kind of doing that, so they definitely agree with that one right now. And I feel like we're kind of seeing the same sort of grouping of players, right? Boom, right up there on the hill over to the right side, and then another set of attackers kind of coming in from the left. I'm not gonna lie, some of them are kind of getting close, right? They're already getting close quarters onto this point.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more red in the kill feed this time around. And again, our teams have swapped sides, which means they've swapped colors. The division now in red. The division need to take this point and move on their merry way if they want priority pick, and they need to take all the points if they want to end Group A right here and be the champions. Here they go. And see from up on high, you're right. They've kind of split into 2 sections and sandwiching the defense. They immediately are wiping this point out. And like I said, it's momentum based, and the momentum is on their side. The division unstoppable on defense, and all of a sudden they look inevitable on offense.
Look at your screen, it's just all red. Look at the point, it's already getting captured. They're almost halfway towards the capture right there. There's almost no green that can kind of stop this at all. Bro, this is almost a done deal already.
Unreal. And again, it was just a perfectly set up attack. They had both angles correctly laid down, and then they just won their gunfights. They just outshot their opponents. And I think the timing as well looked a lot better from the attacking side here. This will be 100% a take of point A. Now the big question becomes, what next? Are we able to get all of them? These other points are still very difficult as well. B1, B2, C1, C2. You've probably played this map 100, if not more times, if you're a Warfare fan. So you know some of these other points. HQ, decently difficult. We'll see a lot of that tug of war we always talk about in Warfare, but done and dusted for point A. Group A not done, but we know for a fact Division will have priority selection going into round 3, if we even see a round 3. So now the only question that remains for this Group A competition, Vivid, is whether or not Division takes every single point.
Yeah, that was crazy right there. I don't even think I saw their tickets go below like 160 or something like that. So they definitely had a great push right off the rip right there. Amazing stuff from them. And you know, B1 and B2 here on the second set of capture points. B1 is always a very, very tricky one. I feel like the head glitches that are kind of over there, that you can kind of step up on the boxes with the barbed wire that's there, make it very, very difficult to kind of push in. But you know, kind of trying to look at where all the defenders are kind of at, it looks like there's like very few on B1.
Yeah.
Are there none?
Yeah, it looks like that this is a kind of somewhat classic strat with Cracked. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does make some sense. Is that holding both of these points is going to be near impossible. So we call it the tug of war in Warfare, and the tug of war will start by essentially the defense giving, you know, one side of the rope to the attack. They're going to say, okay, you guys can have B1, we'll sit on B2. And if you do see a hugely aggressive push from B1 over to B2 by the attackers, sometimes the defense will also just swap sides with them and take it back. So instead of trying to slow them down, they're just seceding to B2 because they think they can hold it a bit better.
Okay. Let's see what you're saying there. Okay, good stuff. We'll have to see if that kind of comes into play, but tank on tank action, right? I feel like this is going to be a big decisive battle here. You can see the attacking tank is already put down to about a quarter HP, and another shot kind of comes in from the tank right there. Going to be standing on what feels like its last leg as the push comes in from the defender. This tank is kind of, you know, overstaying its welcome and somehow is taking a lot of return damage. Oh my God.
What? Oh, okay. So first of all, a shout out to our defensive tank driver there. Was getting really aggressive and actually was winning that battle. The thing that the attackers had, though, is they had one single engineer doing God's work on the map, man. Was able to keep the tank alive to an iota of health, just enough for the return fire to take down our defensive tank, and this is going to be spelling disaster for Squirtle Squad as they're down a tank. The attackers now have a fully healthy tank, I would assume, and B1 long gone, and B2 probably soon to follow.
Yeah, huge shout out to Matt Freeze there, of course, the commander of the division as well, being the one operating that tank over there. You would imagine that it was probably a squad mate that was kind of pulling out those engineering godlike maneuvers right there. And yeah, now that that tank went ahead and survived it, you could see he was trying to kind of poke his head in towards B2 right there. But you know, the fact that it's such a tight corridor to actually get the tank in there, he was like, yeah, not going to kind of stay around there.
It does look like, I think it's Matt Freeze actually driving the tank for the attacking side. That's going to be the division's commander, by the way, also driving the tank. So Matt Freeze doing everything in between to make sure that his team comes out successful. And so far, so good. The division looking very, very strong. Now, they haven't touched B2 too much yet, just trying to set up a correct push. Unfortunate death there on main, but the attackers slowly but surely clamping in, hunting their prey.
Yeah, you want to talk about the push. I feel like the all-in is kind of here, right? We're kind of talking about how Matt Freeze poked his head into this point earlier on, decided to kind of back out. The tank actually found its way back in at the same exact time that the flank came in from behind as well after they went ahead and won that. So that seemed very, very synchronized on the side of the division. This B2 point is now almost at about halfway capture, but Ghost talked about it. Look at that. The tug of war. Somebody's trying to fight for B1. That's going to be thwarted very, very quickly.
Yeah, so this is the other huge advantage that the attackers have. Because they traded out and won the fight against the defensive tank, they can actually just sit basically a tank and an engineer or two over there on B1, while the entire rest of the attackers swing over to B2. I mean, yeah, you're down, what, 2 players? You can shell with the tank, and the attackers don't really care about numbers right now. They're winning their gunfights, and they're going to win B1 and B2 and force this to go to at least to C and see if somehow, some way, the Squirtle Squad can re-stabilize. This is unreal.
Yeah, the division just doing such a good job at controlling pretty much everything. The early push, check. The vehicle game, check. The macro game in terms of, you know, establishing or kind of designating where your resources want to be, check. Although that being said, goes right, we kind of thought that B2 was locked down for the attackers. The huge defensive push from the Squirtle Squad, they've actually reclaimed it.
Yeah, that's a great shout. There are moments of greatness. There's hints that maybe the Squirtle Squad can do something in this matchup. This is a great retake with what looked like it was utter disaster. Now, our tank has gotten extremely aggressive. Our tank has now moved over to B2, trying to capitalize on the momentum that the attackers have. So Matt Freeze getting involved. I'm seeing a lot of red lighting up this kill feed now with the tank onto the map with green soon following after. So still a decently even battle. The defense able to get to this point a little bit faster than they would B1. So they're electing to just try to hold on here.
I feel like right now, though, it looks like a lot of red is making a lot of progress. And yeah, that's going to be shown towards that progress bar right there. Oh, 2 vehicles now going to be established onto the point for the attacking squad. I still don't see a defensive vehicle kind of returning to the battlefield ever since that tank went down. So the points, they must be scarce for the Squirtle Squad right now. And now the rooftops, right, they seem to be in full control of the division. The ground game seems to be in control. B2 is looking quite weak.
I'm going to be honest. I know all these squads qualified separately, but the division is looking like a well-oiled machine. They didn't need time to get their chemistry going. I mean, the pushes are near perfect. The way they're setting them up from multiple angles, I suppose listening to their captains and their commander who's yelling out orders of when to go and how to move there, everything looks very, very well executed. And now you can see even on a flank in a hopeful hero play from the defense to just try to take back B1, immediately gets sniffed out, and all of a sudden there's 5-6 attackers back here completely taking control of the map.
This is awesome, right? Competitive warfare. If I was playing a pub match right there and I just went ahead and made a great push, got like 10 kills, picked up B2, and then I look back and B1's like, no, it's gone, we lost it, right? But no, they know, Goj knew this was going to be a strategy that they tried to employ, right? That tug of war, try to go ahead and go for B1. There was like 5 people on B1 ready to defend it from the Squirtle Squad. They knew that was going to come in, and all of their efforts are rewarded. They go ahead and pick up the second set of capture points. One more set to go.
Yeah, and again, with us not listening into the comms, I still want to give some creds to Matt Freeze because the commander is doing something right. You see Matt Freeze, again, he got really aggressive with a tank to go to B2 to try to help out his team and gain momentum back. But when he did that, I can only assume he told one of the squads or two of the squads, hey, I'm leaving, pull back. I'm going to bring the tank into B2, make sure they don't retake B1. And it was a great sniff of that route getting cut down quickly. So now we're on a C1, C2. Obviously, we've got kind of our hangar here on the left-hand side. This is an interesting one. It's one that we talk about a lot because you can technically blow it up if you get enough points to call in guided missiles and you get a couple of guided missiles on top of it. You can literally remove this point from the game. So we may see that from the attackers. Honestly, I don't think we'll even get there. The game hasn't been going very long, so I don't think they'll have enough points with a guided missile, but they will probably go for C1 first.
Look at this. You can see set a lower here, right? Eyes on that tank. That tank has been around on the match for such a long time. You got to feel like the Squirtle Squad engineers, they got to be rolling their eyes right now. They're like, oh man, the tank was so low. How did we not blow that thing up before? And now they feels like they got to deal with it, right? The pressure that is on their shoulders right now. Set the lower, going to be making big moves right there with the shield.
Hey, look, we see some Seniva gameplay in operations, but you'll see it in Warfare too, especially if we get trench lines. A lot of these CQB positions with Seniva are very, very valuable to have that shield, but either way you look at it, a nice little win there, but we'll see if they can win overall. Of course, some map destruction will help us out, open some more things up for this building, but again, I think our attackers are prioritizing C1 for now. And they're getting a little bit of work on it, but now it looks like actually the tank is moving in and sniffs that guy out quickly. Tank shell to the face, that'll do it.
Yeah, tank getting some value right there. It's really, I mean, hey, listen, you know, we got to tip our hat. The incredible gameplay here. But it's not that hard once you get a tank inside of a building to kind of blow somebody up, right? So,
That's right.
Picking up some easy kills right there. But as you can see, just, playing it so well, not getting greedy, kind of goes in, picks up 2 kills, realizes that he's taking a couple of rockets, backs out, goes ahead and lets the engineers go ahead and work on the tank, and then boom, we'll go ahead and re-aggress and go ahead and find some more value out of that. The tank has just survived for way too long for them to be doing bad right now.
No, 100%. I mean, this is insane value on your vehicles. We were talking about at the top of the show. You got to prioritize vehicle gameplay, either offensive or defensive. Be able to use this tank from the beginning of the game until now. Such a huge value add for the attackers. The division looking very strong. And again, what it actually looked like happened is they went for a infantry push over to C2. It's a nice take here from Bear as well. Infantry pushed to C2 while the tank moved to C1 with only one squad kind of lagging behind it. It opened things up a little bit. The attackers reset after being thwarted on C2. And a lot of folks came over here to C1 to try to take this hangar immediately.
Now, I won't lie. We have seen some defenders kind of invest their time over towards C1, but I feel like it hasn't been that many. And to me, they're actually holding on to it for quite some time right now, even though it doesn't feel like there's been like a huge investment from the defenders. Maybe I'm not necessarily seeing things properly, but
no, yeah.
It only ever feels like there's like 5 to maybe like 8 defenders at one time kind of towards C1 right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good shout. I mean, one of the things we'll see, again, I talk about tug of war all the time when it comes to Warfare because that's truly what it feels like. But for Cracked, and especially on the last points of any map, the defenders, they spawn so close to the points that you basically always lose the war of attrition if you don't execute it flawlessly. And so it looked like the attackers were actually going to try to go for both at the same time. And finally, we see some value. A tank destroyer on the map here for the defense finally gets rid of Matt Freeze, I believe, out of his tank. Now, I will say, I can only expect him to pick up another vehicle here shortly, and, well, here's one of them. Bear getting into the mix with their tank destroyer of their own, and they have an IFV.
Yeah, I think that was Wormy from the Squirtle squad right there, right? So you kind of talked about how good he is with vehicles. He was like, all right, listen, that tank, our engineers aren't doing it. I'm going to go ahead and take care of it myself. Kind of hops in the vehicle and makes quick work of the tank right there. So good to see Wormy kind of getting some momentum in terms of the vehicle game right now. And if you actually, pay attention toward the top middle of your screen right now, C1 is actually still in possession of the defenders. The attack side has not gone ahead and finalized the capitalization over there, even though it seems like to me with all the vehicle investment that's kind of gone towards that hangar, I feel like it should have happened.
Yeah, no, I really like that shout. Something else you'll see top middle of your screen, it says urgent deployment time remaining. This is something else commanders can call in. This is a way for you to get back onto the map much faster. So, you know, in Warfare, if you die, it takes a second for you to respawn. This kind of power up or boon that you can give as a commander, if you have enough score to call it, essentially allows you to respawn instantaneously upon death. So this is a huge boon for whichever side decided to use it. And so far, so good for the attackers. Now, I will say, it does look like they are going to get C1 for now. We are only down to 80 lives or so, 81 still counting, which is plenty to take C2. But whether they got just point A or they get everything besides C2, a win is a win. If Squirtle Squad is able to just hold on to C2 and stop this momentum, they could still win the map and force it to game 3.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing over here is going to be the vehicle. I can see Lobot over there on the attacking side. He was getting very, very low in terms of his vehicle HP, but was able to go ahead and escape. You can see the defenders, they still have their vehicle kind of in the back lines, not necessarily getting in the mix, which we really, really like. And oh my gosh, this spot on C2, by the way, it's like my favorite spot in the game. Up here on top of the rooftop, it's very, very hard for defenders to actually go ahead and destroy anything that kind of gets placed up here. And as you can see, the beacon kind of comes down. This could be the play that goes ahead and secures C2. And as you can see right now, they're taking it fast.
Yeah, you called this position out near the end, very beginning of this game. I really like that spot as well, and you're right. Respawn beacon there is massive for the attack. You can see we got an IFV tank destroyer all around this point. Mr. Wormy a little under half health. They're going to try to keep this vehicle alive if they can, but it's utter chaos. Smokes are in. Smokes galore. And unfortunately, nobody can get a handle on what the heck is going on around this point. It's utter chaos, baby. It's warfare.
Seems like the hold is actually in right there, right? You can see the bar kind of going back towards fully green, so I think that was successfully thwarted. And I did see in the middle of that capture, C1 also was, you know, attempted to get recaptured, right? So somebody is kind of playing that game towards, hey, listen, you know, if things start to go bad over here on C2, I want to go ahead and look towards C1. But yeah, I mean, when you kind of tune into some of these attack-sided positions, he seems so strong. I mean, yeah, the first push was kind of thwarted, but look how easy it is for them to kind of establish another push.
Oh, yeah, and there's so much value coming in here. Matt Freeze picking up Wormy from distance. Wormy officially out of his original vehicle. And this is Venom on your screen right now. Again, Venom was top scorer because of revives on the side of the division.
Yeah, let's see here. I think one of the defending vehicles finally went down. I do see one still off in the distance, but it looked like it was heavily injured. So they are kind of hesitant to kind of go towards the point and help go ahead and defend this, which they may just need to go ahead and send it soon. And yeah, sure enough, here they come. They're going to go ahead and start running people over. They're going to try to recapture this point. That's going to be Asta TTV.
Wow.
They're kind of making sure they make a push. Boom, it kind of works out, right? They blow up the vehicle on the other side.
Wow.
They do go down, but I feel like that was needed.
It was needed. I mean, you had to make a play like that. You're desperate. I mean, you're clutching at anything you get your hands on. As much as it's been division domination, look at this. The tug of war is in. Ooh. C1 now in jeopardy, and take a look at our lives. Only 34 lives remaining. People are going to have to prioritize revives if you're on the attacking side if you want a chance to still win it right here and win Group A. The problem with this idea is if it is not executed correctly, the defense will lose the game. They've got to take C1. C2 is going to the attackers pretty much assuredly at this point. They've got to hold it, and so far, so good on C1.
I feel like C1's got to be going back towards Squirtle Squad right there. You can see them up top in that hangar, right? Once you get upstairs right there, yeah, whenever we saw defenders over there before, they got easily taken care of by the vehicles on the side of the attacking side. Well, guess what, Goj? The vehicles, they're all but gone now, so they can kind of hang out in that little building up there where that turret usually is, and they are very, very hard to kind of push out of there. And you can see right now, they're all trying to work towards it, get them out of there, but C1 is fully recaptured for Squirtle Squad.
A huge retake, a great executed plan. Well done to Commander, whoever made that call, to be able to make a play like that. Retaking here is everything. There's only 3 lives remaining. It's looking like the Squirtle Squad will hold on for their dear lives and potentially win this map, and that's exactly what's going to happen. The Squirtle Squad somehow, some way, hold the final point. C1 and C2, finally, the tug of war we talk about. And finally, they're able to just hold on to the rope long enough for the game to call it. They did enough, just barely, Vivid. Wow, what a way to end.
Oh my gosh. I thought we were gonna be done early. We'll just play 2 games. We'll be out of here. Right. The first point ended in like 20 tickets. Like whatever. Go ahead and just keep running to them. But yeah, like you mentioned right there, grasping at the straws. Finally at the end there, Squirtle Squad. It seems like they made some great plays, very, very decisive there. Shout out to Asta for kind of making that push on to that point right there with the vehicle after getting it fully repaired. And then, yeah, I mean, hey, that push back towards the hangar for C1 right there towards the end. Go ahead and lock it all down. Well done from Squirtle Squad.
Yeah, really well done from Squirtle Squad. And I got to say, too, it looked like Zindakit also made a huge play on the actual initial flank to C1. So big shout out to the entire squad. We've been hyping him up all day. I've seen him in a ton of different events, either as individuals or even as a team. So well done from that team to retake C1 there. I think if they don't play for that and they just kind of hold their breath and hold down C2, I think because, yes, the vehicle made a hero play in a final moment there on C2, after their vehicle also went down with the artillery barrage coming in and a couple of AT4s, I think they lose if they don't go for the C1 play, and very well executed just to survive. Let's take a look back on that map and see some more highlights than last time, because this one certainly went a bit longer, Vivid.
Yeah, crazy stuff, right? I mean, the capture point here on A, we were like, oh wow, that was a little too easy. We thought this one was going to be a very quick game number 2. The attacking side of the division, they just made quick work of the defensive Squirtle Squad here on objective number A. And if we go back to game number 1, right, that was the point that was actually held by the division so well. So the fact that they were kind of able to attack it so easily, it seemed like they were the better team for sure. And the push just kept coming in, right? B1 and B2, they did a great job of locking down B1 with the tank after winning that incredible tank battle that we saw right here. I cannot believe that Matt Freeze ended up surviving in the tank right there to give them such a big advantage over the B objectives.
Yeah, no, I love that shout out. The tank warfare, the vehicle warfare, extremely important. You saw so much value from the attackers. And one of the reasons, like you said, I think they steamrolled all the way into the C points. But then this is where things really started to change. B1 and B2 went down pretty easily. C1 and C2, they had 151 lives, nearly max lives going into the final points. We saw it right there on our screens. And it started by this interesting tactic from the attack to basically send their vehicles and a couple players to C1 and everybody else to C2 and see which they could actually make ground on. They find out the defense is mostly holding C2 and answering their fight, and so they say, okay, fine, C1 will be ours. They double back, they take C1. Now that took them about 60 or so lives. You can see it on your screen now, 80 lives remaining going into C2, which is a lot, but it's not a ton. And so it's kind of like, all right, we got to get moving, let's get active. And this is where you can see IFV and all of our vehicles swarm over to C2 to try to end it here. And with that respawn beacon on top of the building, it looked like they were going to win it, but a hero play from Asta to come in, take down the vehicle and a couple lives as well, losing their vehicle in return. It came to this moment right here where finally our defensive, the Squirtle Squad made the play to take back C1, and they held it to the very end. I think if that game goes another 2 minutes, Division may win it. But it was perfectly timed to retake C1 and just stall out the timer.
Yeah, you want to talk about perfect time, and I feel like the turning point for that game, right? We kind of already talked about it, but it was when Mr. Wormy kind of hopped in the vehicle himself, took out the tank for the Squirtle Squad. I feel like that was the moment. It was like, okay, they can go ahead and win this. Because, we saw over the B objectives, we saw the strategy for the division. They were just going to leave a tank probably over there on C1 towards the hangar, how easy he was kind of picking off some of the opponents right there inside of that hangar. Tank would have just sat there and locked down C1. But the fact that Mr. Wormy went ahead and destroyed that tank made it so that way they could not do that, which made it so that way the defending team could go for that C1 objective in the first place towards the end of the match right there. So I got to go ahead and shout out Mr. Wormy for that incredible play to go ahead and destroy the tank.
Yeah, a really good breakdown, and I totally agree. Folks, we're going to head to a very short break here in the booth. When we come back, it's going to be Game 3, the last game, the last round of Group A. We'll be headed to Group B right after. You're not going to want to miss it. I'm excited to see what the division decide to choose. Are they going to choose attack and defend? Are they going to choose that side? Or are they going to choose their favorite map? Only time will tell. We'll be right back in just a moment.
I was born to hold the blade. Hear the whispers in my blood. Know I love the chase. Tired of giving out my fate. candy eyes that lure you in, I don't leave no trace. I'm good or evil, it's a coin toss, 50-50 test shot. Play a game, you're hiding, but you're crawling, I can see you in my eyes. Time's up, laughing when it gets dark. Doors open, count it down, I'm no average villain. Dance on the edge, moving like a thread. See you in the mirror all this time, I feel so alive. My heart beats so loud when the light is on, it's sabotage. Flying, shaking off the pain. Fly with the fire, we're burning a clear. So ride, it's running in my veins. Found my ego in the battlefield. Don't you know I never missed a storm? Dance through the dark spotlight hunter. I can take a seat, I'll make it roar. Curtain call, show you my true color. Flying, shaking off the pain. Play with the fire, we're burning a clear. So ride, it's running in my veins. Found my ego in the battlefield. Get you high.
Artillery barrage incoming.
Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare North American Semifinals. And we have had, frankly, a wild start to this competition. Group A was, well, it's been crazy, okay? We've seen just about everything you can see. We saw a hold on the very first point, and then we saw a hold on the very last point. So everything in between on Cracked. It is technically 1-1, but Vivid, of course, the division looking like the stronger team as we go into Game 3.
Yeah, definitely could agree with that. They also are going to be going into Game 3 with a slight advantage because of how quickly they were able to end the game where they went ahead and defended, right? So I believe they're going to go ahead and be able to either, they're going to be given the option, hey, do you want to pick the map or do you want to pick the side, Goes? And I feel like that's going to be very, very huge. You would imagine that with how strong their defense seemed, that they would pick the side and then pick defense is what I would do. I think if I was a division, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know what I would do. I want to say that they should maybe pick side if they're confident in their defending skills, like you were saying. Like I think I like that a lot. But if you are comfortable, if the team talks and it's like, hey, I don't care if we're attack, we're defend, or anything in between. If you go to Ascension, we're winning. I feel it in my bones. Then hey, maybe you want to pick the map. Who knows? It really comes down to the team conversation. I'm sure they're having a lot of conversations. I'm looking over here at the Discord, and I'm noticing that it looks like all of the captains of each squad are in a voice chat together. So that's a total of 5 people, basically the captains of each of the squads that they're leading, all in a voice chat talking to each other and trying to figure out what they want to do. So it's not just a lone commander of the entire team selecting. It's kind of these 5 captains representing their squads talking to each other and trying to decide. So we'll figure out what they want to do and how they want to do it. But Vivid, I think I'll go to you here. We talked a lot about Cracked. We're talking about maps and the map rotation. If we have the format graphic, I'll to throw it back up while we're waiting on our teams to select, because I want to go to this, and if you were to select a map, you can see all of the maps on the right. Do you have a map you're like, okay, I've at least played this one the most and therefore I'm the most comfortable? Or is there one you just like to play and you wouldn't care on either side? Is there a map you prefer?
Oh man, okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not picking trench lines at all. I do not like trench line. I don't like it. I don't want to play trench lines. That one's like, nah, I'm good on that. You know what? What kind of caught my eye was actually Threshold. I really like how Threshold kind of plays out, right? It kind of feels like there are a lot of, opportunities for you to kind of go ahead and sneak around. And if you pick Threshold, right? Well, okay, let's think about it in terms of the teams, right? You would imagine that if you're picking the map, then the other team picked sides, right? Or you could be the team that went ahead and picked the map. But I think the division is going to pick sides and they'll pick defense, right? So if you are the Squirtle squad and you're like, okay, what map do we think that we could go ahead and attack the easiest? I feel like Threshold, for me, that first point feels a little bit vulnerable. I feel like that one kind of always goes fast. I've never played it in a competitive setting, so everybody might be listening to me right now and they're like, Vivid, you are actually a little bit of an idiot. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like Threshold would be a good one.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, even in a competitive setting, that first point goes very, very quickly. I think the very interesting part of this conversation is that I think, truthfully, in general, just public lobby statistics, the defense wins probably a hair more on a win percentage category in all games played than the attack. That actually mimics the way our competitive tournaments go as well. The defense has a slightly higher win rate overall than the attack does. So it is kind of a surprise if they don't choose side here and choose to pick defense, that they decide to pick a map. The only reason they would pick a map, like I said, is if that team, they came together, all the captains, and they said, listen, I know we win this map because of X, Y, and Z. And of course, we'll have to break that all down once we get the word on exactly what's happening. But I think I'm getting word that we've got it. What is going on? We are
oh my god,
Vivid. We are headed to trench lines, baby. Now, this is what is super interesting about this selection as well. I'm getting word from behind the scenes admins that the division elected to choose map, not side. They chose trench lines.
Really?
Squirtle Squad then said, oh, you guys chose trench lines? Cool. We're choosing defense. So you're gonna see the division on attack on trench lines. What's going through your head?
Okay, well, obviously the division is like, hey, if we pick a map, we know they're going to give us attack because they're going to want to pick defense, right? Because of, what you just said. Hey, statistically, it's probably, you feel like defense is probably a little bit easier in sense of, getting 20 people together and kind of coordinated defense. I feel like is a little bit easier than coordinating a attack. So they were like, okay, listen, we know they're going to give us attack. What map do we feel like we can attack the easiest? And they must have went ahead and thought about it and be like, okay, we can attack trench lines the easiest. Yeah, I was never coming to that conclusion, by the way, because I feel like trench lines is just an absolute mess. I mean, kind of dealing with all of the trenches. Half the time, I don't even know where the trenches are. I'm just running, and all of a sudden, I fall down. Hey, listen, if they feel confident on it, by all means, I'm excited for the show that is going to be put on by these teams.
What's interesting, too, is that this is a totally made-up statistic, but I think it is true. I want to say we've played more trench lines as a map in Delta Force Global League competitions than almost any other map at all. Like, we've played so many trench lines games. Usually, it's not either selected, it's either just happened to be a randomized map, or sometimes it is selected. And I think it just comes down to comfortability. They have something about this map that they really like. This is what I will traditionally call a longer map in the sense that you have to go through multiple points, which does mean that on paper, each point is a bit easier to capture. So maybe that's why they chose it. The problem is we're playing Victory Unite, which means you don't start with very many tickets to begin with. And so if you don't go in with nearly maximum tickets going into point E at the very end of this map, where you're kind of attacking the factory with the water tower, you can see it on your screen right here. This is the last point. If you get here and you got a less than 100 lives, I think you're toast. This is going to be a tough one for the attack. So the division, I guess they're just going to try to prove that they actually are a super superior squad by making it a little bit of difficult for themselves. But who knows? They just like this map. Let's get into it.
You know how many times I've been on that last point, by the way, and I've called in a missile and it's hit that windmill right there? God, yeah. I hate that windmill. Anyway, we're going to be jumping right into the action. The division choosing to go ahead and pick the map trench lines. probably knowing that they were going to get attacked. So they've got to feel comfortable on the attack side. Squirrel Squad was like, hey, listen, you want to go ahead and pick the map? Fine. We'll go ahead. We'll pick the defense. They got to be feeling good. They just defended cracked, right? So the momentum kind of coming into this game, they got to be feeling confident in their defense.
I agree. I think this is best case scenario for Squirrel Squad. Let's see what they can do. And again, what we'll talk about metric for success on this one. You just win the map and you win your matchup and you move to the finals. That's how this works. If you are the winning team in Group A, you'll be making to the finals to play the winning team of Group B, which we'll do right after this. So a lot on the line, and everything that's happened is now completely behind you. It only matters about what's happening on this map. And it looks like Erica has decided to pull out a sniper for the very beginning of this one, trying to open things up for their team. Something else that happens here with trench lines, you start with a tank. And this tank is likely going to stay on this hilltop until going into finally taking point A. If you see this tank get on to point A at all, it's either a huge mistake or the point's basically already taken. They're moving forward onto B.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you heard my distaste for trench lines, and that's going to be another thing, right? These tanks, when they spawn in on trench lines, right, all of them, and whoever's driving the tank is going to sit so far back and just keep raining missiles on the entirety of the map, and it just feels like you really can't do anything because they can just sit so far away. And as we're saying that, right, the attack, it's coming in early right now. 173 tickets, right? They've barely been scratched, and the point is shifting in their favor.
Yeah, tank getting a little bit more aggressive than usual. Like I said, if you're going to do this, it's either a mistake or you're basically taking the point already, and I think it's the latter. Now, this tank did get pretty weak. They're able to smoke it, and they've got engineers riding it, so should be able to heal it back up. Matt Freeze, our commander, back in the tank yet again. He found a lot of value on it in the last couple of maps, so he's going to maintain position in the vehicle and help his team take this point quickly. This is very well done from the attackers. As expected to some degree, but still very well done.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played a map with trench lines where it was defended on the first point, right? So definitely, like you said, expected, but this fast, I feel like is a little bit crazy. Maybe, you know, there's like, hey, you know, just get it over with, just go ahead and take a point, like whatever, let's go to the trenches over there. But they are still trying to actually weasel the way back up to the point, right? As you can see, they have not captured the point yet, so the push is still coming in, and I think it's actually favoring the defense now. Yeah, they are recapturing it back in their favor.
Yeah, some pretty good hold. It did look like the attackers had quite a bit of units still back on the hilltop where the tank has elected to back up to maintain its life. And that's allowing their defense to come in with more numbers and start taking this point back a bit. But great angles here on some of the boxes. Some nice headies to be able to take down your opponents without losing your life. Watch out for Ericsson, who's got the sniper on the hill. But other than that, so far so good. Ooh. Decent balance. The tank getting a lot of value, but got to be careful. This would be a huge disaster if Matt Freeze dies in that tank on point A.
I saw he was actually taking a lot of damage right there. You could see how aggressive he was getting all the way onto the other side of the point, actually. I believe the tank went down to about 40% HP, but was able to get out of there, and he is actually already back in the action. And that's going to be point A captured by the division.
Yeah, unfortunately, Zin, I think one of the last remaining bodies there to try to hold on. Squirtle Squad couldn't get much value out of point A. Metric for success, we know, is you got to win the entire map, but the minor kind of wins, if you will, that you can find on this map are if you hold a point long enough that when they finally do take it, the attackers take it, they don't get all their lives back. Obviously, not the case for point A. We'll see if point B is any different.
Yeah, straight back up to 180, right? So the attackers got to be feeling good about that one. That means they went ahead and captured that point very, very quickly. And as you can see right there, what's that? If I can do some quick math right there, it looks like there's at least 10 players kind of running up the river on the right side of the push.
Yep.
Probably have their eyes set on that B2 push.
Yeah, I really like this play. It's something we've seen in trench lines a couple times where you send a huge route of units up the riverside, kind of not even really in the trenches, on the outside of the trenches, to find an angle over here that's not actually held down. So you're seeing the attackers get a bunch of bodies into the trenches fairly uncontested with this route. And look, hey, if you're a Seneva fan, there have been some historical moments inside these trenches with Seneva Operator. Pull out that shield, hold it down, and maybe line up 15 players and beat them all down. It's been done before. And I want to say it was actually done by a couple members of a couple different squads, but one of those squads is the Bear team that is playing in this game right now. So who knows? Might see some Norris Sanivas as we get into the trenches.
B2 was always such an impossible push, I feel like, for me, whenever I play these matches, and they kind of just walked onto it, and it looks like they've got some very, very strong foothold to go ahead and actually capture this as a one very, very early on. So great job by the team here. Phoenix Hype was actually in a great spot to go ahead and pick off a lot of the defenders. I like that head glitch that was kind of towards that one side over there where they actually come from. So that was a great spot for him. And yeah, looks like B2 going to be suffering some early captures from the attacking side. As I say that, it starts to go the other way.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of pressure on it for sure. We'll see if they're able to actually execute on it. The problem is you're seeing B1 also be taken at the same time. It looks like our tank friend, who usually hangs off in the distance, has elected to get a little bit more active. And it's going to swing over. And they're doing a pretty similar strategy to what they did on B1 and B2 of Cracked. Or C1, C2 rather. Wasn't perfectly executed, but this one's seemingly done a bit better. The tank and a couple players on one, and a majority of the players on the other. And then if B2 gets thwarted, everybody swarms on B1 quickly before the defense can respond. So nearly perfectly executed. Here's the problem. We've lost our tank. No, okay, it's still alive. I saw it go gray for a second. I got scared.
Still alive, still healthy. It did take a couple of rockets right there. It did go down to about half HP, but it is just going to back up in it. So many of those little hills on trench lines makes it almost impossible to go ahead and take advantage of opportunities like that. But the tug of war, as Goj explained it, we saw an early push over towards B2. The defenders were forced to go ahead and respond unless they wanted to lose it. And as a result, nobody was really left to go ahead and defend B1. So that was going to be an easy take, especially with the help of the tank. Matt Freeze going to be the operator of that one again. And it looks like he's got what looks like to be at least one, maybe two engineers that are kind of dedicating themselves to go ahead and keep him healthy.
Yeah, this is not even a strategy anymore. This is a must. If you're playing Warfare at any sort of competitive level, you've got to have engineers on your vehicles to keep them up, because everybody knows how to kill a vehicle. It's a lot harder to kill a vehicle if they're constantly being healed by multiple engineers. And like you saw briefly from some of these players, you can even go prone on top of the tank and just sit there blowtorching it.
Interesting here, though. So B1 was captured, and not what feels like even a minute later, B2 is also getting captured. So a great transition from the division to actually take the big brunt force of their attack and quickly go ahead and establish a foothold over B2.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Matt is getting so much value out of that tank, too. Now that he's in a position where he doesn't feel threatened sitting on top of B1, he can just shell this point, and anybody that moves out of the trenches is going to get obliterated.
I mean, you could see right over the top of the trenches. I keep seeing rockets kind of fly past. They're definitely going towards the tank, but unless you kind of synchronize like a bunch of rockets from your engineers at the same time, I mean, the engineers that are kind of healing that tank up back there are just way too valuable. They're kind of out healing that damage, and there it is. The B objectives are going to be captured, and I don't think enough tickets was kind of, you know, impacted there for them to be any less than 180. Again, I feel like they're going to be a fresh attacking squad going into C, and yeah, there it is, 180 tickets fresh to go towards C.
Yeah, no, it's a great call out, and again, that's a huge loss for the defense. Right now, the only thing they really are trying to do is make sure the attackers don't go into point E with max tickets, max lives. That's the key, because point E is going to be extremely hard to capture in theory. You spawn, the defense basically spawns in the point almost. It's extremely difficult to take. But right now, this is an utter domination by the division, and I've only seen point C take longer than like 45 seconds, maybe twice out of the like 20 times we've seen it in Delta Force Global League. So I can imagine this point will go pretty quickly. D1 and D2 are really the litmus test on how difficult point E will even be.
Yeah, I mean, C is kind of, you know, go back to Cracked, right? Where you were kind of mentioning how the hangar, you can kind of destroy the hangar and kind of blow it up, right? All of these houses that kind of the defensive side wants to utilize to defend C, yeah, I mean, the tank can just kind of blow them all up, really. So the angles that the defense side ends up having towards the later, you know, stages of defending C, it's almost done, makes it very, very difficult. And, you know, you have 2 vehicles, the tank obviously still alive right there. You can see another vehicle rolling around for the attacking side right there. And, you know, I mean, what's a cliff to a vehicle?
That was amazing. This guy, whoever's running the IFV there, is trying to play it like normal. Just run and gun, sprint off the side of the mountain, take some shots on the way down. Nice play, but yeah, you're right. Taking over these buildings is pretty easy. There's a lot of openings to them, especially when the tank shells them a couple times. Should be able to walk in and take this point no problem. Again, to have any real value on this point, you're gonna have to decrease lives to like 115 maybe, and that there's no chance that's happening. C is crumbling literally and figuratively under the defensive grass. They're gonna back up and plan for D1, D2.
Yeah, that was quick. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of looked at the check on the ticket health of the attacking side, and 150 is actually lower than I thought it was gonna be. I feel like it's been a very fast scene. I'm like, oh wow, they've actually, you know, taken out about 30 of them. I'm not even sure when that happened, but yeah, as you can see right here, the defense right now is not finding much success, but Goj, the very experienced man himself, is calling upon the defense towards D1 and D2. So I have hopes myself for Squirtle Squad. We'll have to see, though.
Yeah, I have hopes for him as well. I will say B1 and B2 usually take longer, so it's getting me a little scared. I'm a little scared going into D1 and D2. Obviously not trenches, a different type of point to play for, but still a double-sided point. Tug of war could absolutely happen there. It's basically the lumber yard, and then it's kind of trenches, little mini trenches on the other side for D2, but still, let's see how they do. Now, the usual big hold for D1 is this hilltop, basically.
Yeah.
If you're able to control this hilltop, which is essentially right on the front side of the point, and keep the attackers spawning in from the low side, you can actually find a lot of value on this point. So it does look like the defense is going to prio maintaining position on D1 as well and not totally giving it up, which I think is the right move. Got to be careful of some of these routemen on the left side, though. See where they go.
Yeah, I was going to say, as you were saying that, right, the hill is important. I already see attackers on top of the hill. D1's actually getting captured, right? It's losing some of that green in that D1 square up there already. So the hill's gone. I don't know what just happened. Usually that hill's like impossible, it feels like to me, like you were mentioning. But yeah, D1 is already under attack right there. You would imagine the vehicles were kind of playing a part right there. I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna go ahead and mention that I did see off in the distance Squirtle Squad. I thought I saw Wormy in a vehicle, and I was like, oh, okay, nice, they're gonna get some progress kind of going here, but I don't think I see him anywhere anymore, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it does look like... Yeah, I think there he is. So it does look like their defense does have a vehicle, but the attackers have 2. It actually looks like one of our players is elected to get into the AA gun. All right, respect. Throw some shells down range, see if you can get value out of it. Hopefully that's not a troll.
You know,
yeah.
Hail Marys never hurt nobody. Please hit something. All right, so D2 now. Yeah, D2 is definitely a tough one as well, right? Kind of what feels like similar-esque, but obviously you're closer to your respawn play of that cracked kind of B1 layout, right? Where you're kind of in an encampment. So kind of hard for infantry to kind of push into there. But it looks like, you know, again, these players are very, very good. They're used to kind of funneling into that. So like, hey, listen, I don't want to funnel in just towards the point. We're going to go around the side, and that's just been the name of the game over and over and over again for the division.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm noticing on the division side, especially Ale here on your screen, I'd be really curious to know scores. Ale is picking up so much value per life. I mean, we talk about these situations where we talk about macro on the team, but when you see an individual like this pick up, what is this, 6, 7 kills in one life? The 1v multiple situations finally getting cut down there. I mean, that is huge value add for your team in just terms of raw numbers of where you are. Like, making those flanks and making hero plays like that, picking up 5, 6 kills in a single life, can't be understated how important that is.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right, where you're playing a 20v20 mode. It's giant, you know what I mean? There's vehicles everywhere, and you feel like sometimes it doesn't matter if you get like 10 kills. It doesn't feel like you make any progress, right? But of course, in this kind of environment where your team is always ready to take some of the space that you go ahead and establish, you can see, right? All of those kills they kind of picked up on the right side over there. Look how many attackers are now over there, like 7, 8 of them.
Yep.
So that space instantly being taken advantage of by some of these more competitive players. They know when they can kind of go ahead and pick and choose the right spots. And you know, D1's been captured, D2 they're closing in. It's only been 30 tickets used up so far. Man, the division, they just look too good.
Yeah, they look really, really strong. Now we're seeing quite a bit of value coming in through for Mr. Wormy yet again in the vehicle. This is a fight he has to win. If Lobot can get cut down outside of his tank because of this tank destroyer that Wormy's in, all of a sudden we could see a hold here that is more reminiscent of C2 and C1 at the end of Cracked. But vehicle's got to go down. Now I'm seeing a lot of green, and I'm seeing a lot of the Syndicate. Mr. Wormy, chicka chicka boom boom.
Okay.
Also Zen himself, Randy Savage there, picking up Lobot. Lobot down means tank is down. The Syndicate doing God's work for their team, wiping a vehicle and wiping an important team off the map. They're holding on to G2.
There it is, right? And yeah, right after that happens, right? If you keep your eye up towards that top right side of your screen, it's all green. Like, that feels like instant momentum shift for Squirtle Squad right there. Again, you know, we kind of mentioned it on Crash in game number 2. Wormy, I feel like him destroying the tank was boom. Yes, we can go ahead and defend this. Again, Wormy, with the help of Randy Savage, kind of coming in off of the rocket. Boom, tank's gone. It seems like they started to pick up, you know, kills, and just like that. It was like, what, like a minute ago, Ghost? I was like, oh, man, they're at like 150 tickets. They're looking good.
Yeah.
They're at 120, less than 120.
Yeah, you can see now the defense has 2 vehicles. They've got their tank, and it's way up there on the hill. The tank is actually all the way on point E already, playing the backline, just shelling this hilltop, because this is the other position that you can see from way over there. They've got the high ground, so they're going to do it. Now, classic warfare fashion, people are calling vehicles in. Can you shoot it down before it hits the ground? The answer is yes. All of a sudden, Squirtle Squad is coming online.
Great work there. Great, you know, awareness to go ahead and make sure that, hey, we were getting dominated by the vehicles. These guys, they started the map with a tank. If we can just go ahead and break that, we have a great shot, and making sure that it stays that way. You know, keep us in the vehicle advantage right now. It's looking good now for Squirtle Squad.
Copy. Vehicle drop to designated location.
Yeah, and we're getting to a point in the game that's gone long enough that you're going to start seeing some of these support systems called in. You're going to see those artillery barrages come in. You're going to probably see the urgent redeployment coming in from the commanders as well. Ooh, I would assume we may even get a guided missile on this map if we can hold on long enough. Now, it looks like Zen, Wormy, Randy Savage still all playing together, finding a lot of kills. So far, so good.
Again, I mean, the tickets are just, they are just getting destroyed right now. I mean, my eyes have kind of been peeled towards that top right of the screen, and goes, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it's been like a minute. I think maybe there's been like 5 total attacking kills. Like, it has just been all defense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And look at that, even another attacking vehicle going down because of the tank shelling from distance. Wormy's driving through without a care in the world, blasting some tunes, some jams, and just having a dang good time.
What a turn of the tides here. It was seeming like it was going to be a clean sweep. Goes, you know, again, with the experience in the warfare, it was like, hey, D1 and D2, keep your eyes on that. That's going to be the telltale test. And, you know, but, you know, we mentioned, hey, D1 the hill, that feels like the most important part. They lost that quick, and it did not matter. D2 has been the strong point for the Squirtle Squad right now, down to 70 tickets. So more than half of the progress has been made for the defensive side. Now I see it off in the distance. So the tank is finally back for the division, right? They have that tank re-established. Can they do anything with it?
It looks like they found some value out of it. One vehicle goes down on the side of the defense, and now finally a push coming through. Lying in wait, working together. They've opened the hole a little bit so that they can try to climb into this point. The problem is Wormy's still up, and he is still getting a ton of value from this tank destroyer. There's a massive grouping of units there on the outside. We got to pay attention to the kill feed, make sure we don't miss it. I think he was able to stay up and drive out as we are getting some action on both points now.
I mean, that was huge right there, right? Matt Freeze was the one in the tank again. He went ahead and just ran that point towards D2, and I was like, wait. I mean, that's not playing the long game at all, right? They lost their tank instantly, but the amount of troops that were right behind that tank, ready to flood the point, was incredible. Shout out to the team. There must have been some great comms coming out right there to go ahead and make that synchronized push happen, because look at this. Yeah, the tank got instantly blown up, but they have all of the bodies needed to go ahead and capture D2. Now, they've got to win the tug of war. D1 is being taken by the defenders, but not that fast.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. They got to make a move on both points right now. They got to throw everything on it, and an urgent deployment time remaining has been thrown down. So you can see 34-second on that time, which means an urgent deployment has started. People are flooding to these points, and we're seeing a ton of green as they're finally working their way back into the point. And in the final moments, holding on D1 and D2, a tank moves onto the point and says, fine, I'll do it myself. Drives up and gonna sit on this point. You're gonna have to go through me if you want to take this point. And you're seeing the defense slowly whittle their way back to making sure that they could win it. They could win it right here. They don't even need point E. They're gonna win on D.
They definitely could, right? But it's going to be hard. That tank is going to be pretty tough. And you can see right there, Mr. Wormy and Savage, they got 4 out of 4 in the vehicle right there. They're going to be looking to go ahead and stop this push right now. It's going to be all but infantry for the side of the division right there. Now, not going to have the backup that they once had of the vehicles right there. They did get one. That's going to be the tank down. Is that going to be enough?
It was a great use of the magnetic bombs. You saw some of our infantry shooting off the engineer so that the tank would become vulnerable, and then multiple magnetic bombs land on top of it from Virons, and all of a sudden it's gone. Now Wormy going to be the lone survivor inside of a vehicle, getting extremely active on D2. Attackers have restabilized D1, and they're making what could be and will be their final push. You've got to get Wormy out of this tank destroyer, and you got to do it right now if you want a chance to win this competition. This is for the win. Wormy goes down, and opening on D2, bodies have got to be on the point. Both teams know it, and now we've got 2 lines of defense and 2 lines of the attack, and we've got 1 vehicle, an IFV on the attacking side, getting into the mix because it has to. It's going to risk and likely lose its life, but it's going to cause enough disturbance to try to find some value with the other bodies that they can get onto the point. You can see them now right underneath the flag.
As this capture was coming in, though, I did see vehicles kind of parachuting down in the distance, right? The attacking side is going to have some reinforcements in terms of vehicles coming in very, very soon after that one did just get blown up. So D2 could be under siege here. It looks fine right now.
Oh, no.
The vehicles
we ran out
coming in. They couldn't get there in time. Goes Squirtle Squad, the Benz.
Unbelievable. Just ran out of time. I was watching it as well. Vehicles were coming in. We finally had enough score to call more things in. The problem was we did not have enough lives. How on earth? After watching the first round of this game, I thought there was no way, but how can you count against Mr. Wormy and the Syndicate?
Yeah.
Unbelievable turn of events. Gifted, frankly, the defense on the side of trench lines, and they're able to execute on it. Frankly, not on any other point besides D1 and D2, but everything came together at the perfect moment, and they are going to be your champions. The division falls, and Squirtle Squad will be moving on to the finals next week. Are you kidding me?
Incredibly well deserved right there. You know, we saw it when they defended the first time on crack. Mr. Wormy in the vehicle. You kind of talked about it at the top of the show. You're like, hey, listen, Mr. Wormy is known for his vehicle presence in the game. And again, you know, we kind of saw that in games number 2, game number 3 as well, right? Where him combined with Randy Savage was the difference maker. As soon as they took out that tank that was on D1, instantly the tide changed. That's when the tickets started to drop very, very fast. It seemed like the division just fell apart after they lost their first tank right there. But I can't lie, to me, I was like, oh yeah, this is done. I thought the division was just going to steamroll them. I mean, every single point that they ended up taking, A, B, C, they had like 150 tickets left every single time, but finally met their match.
Yeah, and this is where, obviously, I was in the exact same boat. I mean, I saw this moment right here where B1 and B2 really wasn't a tug of war at all. It was just a slow creep and a slow crawl of the attackers to move into both, win both, and then move on their merry way. And I was like, man, if this is going to be what D1 and D2 look like, there's no chance that the final fight on E is going to be any sort of balance with full 180 tickets. So I thought, okay, we're going to get there. We're going to have 180, and it'll be the final bloodbath. But no, it was here. 150 lives remaining, and they have full control over D1.
Yeah.
The defense had to hold D2 for 150 lives, and there were many moments, and one of them right there on your screen, where all of a sudden the defense looked like a totally different squad, namely with Wormy inside that tank destroyer and the rest of the infantry on D2 just holding that point for their dear lives. I mean, really well done to make sure they shot some of these vehicles that were called in out of the air, but also having an extra vehicle up on the hill at point E gave them so much collision, so much power from a distance. That shelling makes a huge difference, even when fighting vehicles, yes, but also just people on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, incredible stuff for Squirtle Squad. Congratulations, guys. I mean, the Division, you guys played very, very well, too. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it will be Squirtle Squad that is going to the grand finals. We will see them compete next weekend. Again, congratulations. We do know, as we saw earlier, the Division, they will not be walking home empty-handed. They, of course, have that $1,000 for their entire team to go ahead and split up. So again, congratulations to you guys. And, you know, Gosh, not to kind of pick on them a little bit here, kind of throw that question mark out in the air, but you gotta kind of maybe talk about the fact that, hey, for game number 3, you guys had the advantage. You went ahead and decided to pick the map instead of decide. Was that the deciding factor on this one right there? I don't know. We'll have to see if that decision right there kind of looms over and helps influence Group B when we see them later on.
Man, I think it's a great call. I sat there and I'm almost at a loss for words, because I sat there and I was like, is this really happening? We're picking a map over side. I feel like I've always felt like the side decision is so much more valuable, especially because you force the map to be chosen first. And so, yeah, there might be somebody on the other side that says, okay, well, usually people pick defense, so let's pick a map where the attack is really, really strong. You had mentioned Threshold potentially as being one of those. And so they're like, fine, we love to attack on Threshold. Let's pick Threshold. Well, then the other team, the team that picked side originally, the priority picker, could have said, cool, you picked a map where we think we can win on attack as well. We're going to pick attack. And so picking side just feels so much more valuably, unless you really feel like your team has an advantage for whatever reason on a specific map. You feel like everybody's comfortable with it, everybody wants to play it, and everybody thinks they can win on it. Then boom, I like the vibes. Let's go for it. It is definitely a gut play, but you win championships off of gut plays like that. And so they go for broke. They pick Threshold, and then I think Squirtle Squad said, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll take defense. Good luck out there. And Squirtle Squad comes out on top. Such a wild turn of events. Folks, we are getting ready for what is certainly going to be another raucous group stage matchup. We are moving into Group B here shortly. Yes, we are done with Group A, and Squirtle Squad moves on. The division done for the Delta Force Global League. But Group B, right around the corner. We've got a new set of players, a lot to talk about with them, new squads, new team names, a lot of new faces to introduce you to as we get into another best of 3 for Group B. Don't go anywhere after this break. We'll have another best of 3 on a brand new map. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll see you in a little bit. unfortunately. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt very similarly. And then all of a sudden, the kill feed on the right.
No, he kept flanking, and that has established a very good line of sight where this could be the thing that goes ahead and win this point, right? As you can see right there, a lot of progress, very minimum value. Those vehicles from the attacking side have not stayed along for long at all. And now what's kind of stopped this at all, this is over.
If not more times, if you're a Warfare fan. So you know some of these other points, HQ.
You know, B1 and B2 here on the second set of capture points. B1 is
Crack. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does make some sense. Is that holding both of these points is going to be
decisive battle here. You can see the attacking tank is already put down to about a quarter HP, and another it's welcome and somehow is taking a lot of return damage. Oh my god. I'm kind of poke his head in towards B2 right there, but you know, the fact
a lot of these CQB positions with Saniva are very, very valuable to have that shield. And they're getting a little bit of work on it, but now it looks like actually the tank is moving in. And what it actually looked like happened is they went for a infantry push over to C2. You always lose the war of attrition if you don't execute it flawlessly. So it looks
enough. Here they come. They're going to go ahead and start running people over. They're going to try to recapture this point. That's going to be Asta TTV.
Wow.
They're kind of making sure they
maintain position in the vehicle and help his team take this point quickly. This is very well done from the attack.
And that means they went ahead and captured that point very, very quickly. And as you can see right there, what's that? That head glitch that was kind of towards that one side over there where they actually come from. So that was a
strategy to what they did on B1 and B2 of Cracked. Or C1's
been the name of the game over and over and over again for the division.
People are calling vehicles in. Can you shoot it down before it hits the ground? The answer is yes.
Feels like the most important part. They lost that quick, and it did not matter. D2 has been at for the division, right? They have that tank re-established.
And in the final moments, holding on D1 and D2, a tank moves on to the... Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt very similarly. And then all of a sudden, the kill feed on the right.
No, he kept flanking, and that has established a very good line of sight where this could be the thing that goes ahead and win this point, right? As you can see right there, a lot of progress, very minimum value. Those vehicles from the attacking side have not stayed along for long at all. And now what's kind of stopped this at all, this is over.
If not more times, if you're a Warfare fan. So you know some of these other points, HQ.
You know, B1 and B2 here on the second set of capture points. B1 is
Cracked. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does make some sense. Is that holding both of these points is going to be
decisive battle here. You can see the attacking tank is already put down to about a quarter HP, and another it's welcome and somehow is taking a lot of return damage. Oh my god. I'm kind of poke his head in towards B2 right there, but you know, the fact
a lot of these CQB positions with Saniva are very, very valuable to have that shield. And they're getting a little bit of work on it, but now it looks like actually the tank is moving in. And what it actually looked like happened is they went for a infantry push over to C2. You always lose the war of attrition if you don't execute it flawlessly. So
sure enough, here they come. They're going to go ahead and start running people over. They're going to try to recapture this point. That's going to be Asta TTV.
Wow.
They're kind of making sure they
maintain position in the vehicle and help his team take this point quickly. This is very well done from the attack.
That means they went ahead and captured that point very, very quickly. And as you can see right there, what's that? That head glitch that was kind of towards that one side over there where they actually come from. So that was a
strategy to what they did on B1 and B2 of Cracked. Or C1's
been the name of the game over and over and over again for the division.
People are calling vehicles in. Can you shoot it down before it hits the ground? The answer is yes.
Feels like the most important part. They lost that quick, and it did not matter. D2 has been at for the division, right? They have that tank re-established.
And in the final moments, holding on D1 and D2, a tank moves on to... Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt very similarly. And then all of a sudden, the kill feed on the right.
No, he kept flanking, and that has established a very good line of sight where this could be the thing that goes ahead and win this point, right? As you can see right there, a lot of progress, very minimum value. Those vehicles from the attacking side have not stayed along for long at all. And now what's kind of stopped this at all, this is over.
Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare North American Semi-Finals Group A. Done and dusted. We are on to Group B, folks. A brand new competition, a brand new best of 3, and a chance to see who the second team to join us in the finals will be. Let's take a look at our bracket here, Vivid, and talk about what we just saw, of course, but also what we're about to see. Here's the other side of the bracket. We saw Squirtle Squad move forward. We got 2 new competitors moving into the fold here with Group B.
Yes, those 3 games we just watched, boom, done, dusted. We're done with everybody that just played right there. We've got some new contestants that are going to go ahead and take the stage. It's going to be Team Legacy versus Team Avengers. I can't lie. I'm kind of happy that I'm going to be saying Team Legacy and Team Avengers versus Squirtle Squad. Right? That one was always like, man, I don't really want to say that right now. But yeah, Team Legacy versus Team Avengers. Very, very excited to kind of see how this one is going to go. Of course, Coach, we again are going to have those commanders that have been selected. For Team Legacy, it's going to be Sonic. And then down there for the Avengers, it is going to be Neo.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Our 2 commanders, all of the captains of each squad came together and voted for 2 commanders for the group stages. These 2 were selected, and then these 2 commanders drafted the teams. Now, you probably see a couple familiar, I would say, tags of some of these squads. Immortals have a couple squads, one in our original group stages and this one in the other. You also see Bear 2. This is the same group, same organization with a second squad that have joined us over here. We see a couple different 4Fs as well, 2 of which have ended up on the same team. Nice drafting there from Sonic and the crew. So overall, again, some of these are some familiar names that we've seen before. I've seen Sonic and his team play quite a bit in a lot of our competition. I've seen a lot from Wag and Rasta on the Alien roster as well, with Snarf as well. That is one of the rosters that has actually won our competition in the past, a lot of our Warfare competitions. So I'm thinking I'm leaning Legacy if I had to do some predictions, but both of these rosters looking good. I see Bunny Quid, UTP, they've played in a lot of our events as well. So some familiar names here, and then also some new names that have a chance to work their way up to the top of these leaderboards and continue to prove themselves as some of the best Warfare players in the game. So maybe I'm leaning Legacy, but also definitely too early to tell. But as per the usual, we do random map rotation. There's 7 total, and it looks like we've selected Cyclone for this one, and we're gonna be starting on Cyclone and also doing Cyclone for map 2 here. Vivid, totally different map than Cracked. What do you think about Cyclone?
Oh man, Cyclone is going to be a treat. I feel like Cyclone as well. This is definitely one of the newer maps as well, correct? Yeah. So this one I do not have as much experience on, but I do believe Cyclone features a couple of different vehicles than we saw over on the past 2 maps, right? I think there are water vehicles, and then I think the helicopter is also introduced on this map as well. So we will definitely see a different dynamic on Cyclone as well. Again, not a map that I have as much experience on as the other 2 that we just watched, which would, for me, make this actually a little bit more exciting on a personal level, because I'm very, very interested to kind of see how these players kind of work around this map.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot, and you're dead on for all of those pieces. You will see a helicopter on this map, which we haven't seen yet for Season 3. Excited to see who potentially takes over the helicopter, who will be leading the charge on that. Will it be a commander that's trying to lead the charge in the sense of direct their entire team while also pilot some aircraft? I don't know. I'm sure there's some folks that specialize in our helicopters and our aerial vehicles. So it's something that I've been noticing in the Discord and the way that our squads are talking to each other. They're absolutely splitting and dividing up roles based on who's best at what, right? And so I would assume that somebody's already selected. I am our helicopter operator going into Cyclone, but a fun map. There's a lot we can talk about with this map, and as we get into it, you'll be able to see a lot of those things. One of the things we usually see on Cyclone 2, this is a part of the design originally of Cyclone, is that there is some weather that could change while we're playing, so watch out for that. May see the namesake of the map actually come into play a bit, so some fun things on Cyclone, some indoor positions, some outdoor positions. It feels like a fun and somewhat balanced map in terms of all the different types of fights we'll see. So you're right, we'll see, of course, all the terrain throughout the course of our semifinals here, with air and water being added into the mix here with Cyclone. But also you'll see every kind of different style of fighting, if you will, on this map as well. You've got really long sight lines near the beginning of this map. You have some really close CQB positions interior as well. And there's also this really cool waterway that's inside on one of the points. That's always been really fun to watch our players navigate. You can even drive a boat through it. So a lot that we will talk about with Cyclone. I'm sure our players are all discussing strategy. But Vivid, as we prepare for this, I mean, look, I don't want to get predictions down because it feels like we don't know a lot of our players. We've got to continue to learn them as they get into this new ecosystem. So the prediction I will ask from you is, do you think we see an attacking team win a game? Ooh. That's the question I've got for you, because it's been all defense all day today, not without some worries. But do you think we see attackers win any of these first 2 rounds?
Would we be a little too spoiled if we saw another like game 3, right? Because of course, if we saw like game 3, well, I guess they could both win attack side. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna. I feel like we're gonna see an attack side win here, right? Maybe kind of like change it up. Maybe the addition of the couple of other vehicles on this map will kind of help make some of those pushes happen. But yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have high hopes here. I think we're gonna see an attack win for sure on Cyclone.
Okay, Vivid saying we're going to see an attack win. I'll be curious to see if we will. I think you're spot on. I think we will this time, because you're right. We could either see the attack win both times, which would be crazy, and go to game 3 again, or we've already gotten spoiled with a game 3. I think we might see a 2-0 this time around, which means our attackers would have to win at least one of these matches. So we'll see what they're able to do. But game's about to get started. Our teams are selecting their commanders. So let's take a look at our map again and take a look at the sides. It does look like Legacy are going to be our attackers to start, and the Avengers are going to be our defenders to start. So if you see red, that's going to be our Legacy teams, and if you see green, that's going to be the defense. That's going to be the Avengers. So I'm liking these name selections. They're much easier to say than Squirtle Squad 5 times fast.
Exactly.
And I'm pumped for this map. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Let me ask you something, Goj, right? Kind of going into the match, right? Game number 1 here. Would you rather go into like this kind of warm up for the rest of the day here? Would you rather be on the attacking side first or the defending side first?
Oh, that is a great question. According to history, I guess you should be on the attacking side and lose in a dramatic fashion, because that's what happened with Squirrel Squad, who won the entire competition. Here's our game, a very pretty and beautiful map. Here's the beginning of it, and like we have stated, there is multiple different styles of combat. You already see some boats coming into the mix, and oh, are our jets? I think our jets have been added recently, so I think they would be in the air. I think we've got some jets in play. Let's go.
Ooh, that'll be very interesting to kind of keep an eye on. I won't lie, I already saw the defense kind of blow up one of those infantry vehicles that you were kind of talking about earlier. That was an easy 4-piece off the rip for one of our defenders right here, but the attack is still going to be coming in here. And you want to talk about, how close you are to kind of some of these points. I feel like Cyclone A, like it almost feels like the attacking side is like spawning right there, right? If they take a couple steps and it already feels like they're knocking on the front door.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's usually the case with some of these longer maps. Like we said, this is going to go the distance, if you will, much more similar to Threshold. Here's a look at some aerial perspectives. We've kind of got an under the body cam and missiles going down. Quick look at the jet. I love the free cam look as well. It's great to see jets added into the mix. This is a very recent addition into the Delta Force, and I wasn't sure if it was in customs, but of course it is. We're on the latest patch, so jets into the mix. Some dogfights may be happening, but we got some dogfights down below as well. We got a lot of bodies on point trying to battle for position.
That's very, very interesting, right? Kind of the recent addition in that jet. A big thing about competition a lot of times is actually experience, right? And when you're kind of talking about it, a lot of our competitors throughout the day already have shown experience has been shown, whether it be dealing with this, that, or the other thing. The fact that jets are fairly new, maybe a lack of experience on actually how to deal with them would be a big factor in terms of getting that out of the sky. So we'll have to see how much impact that one has. I'd imagine it's going to have a lot.
Yeah, no, that is a really good shot. I'll be very curious to see how much impact it has, because obviously if you can take control of the skies, could be a huge value add for your team, but you've got to be extremely efficient with that vehicle in order to find real value on the ground. One of the big uses for it, of course, is taking down some enemy vehicles as well, but we've got Sonic in our helicopter trying to flare and swerve out of the way. So our attackers have a vehicle of their own, and they take to the skies as well. And a pretty mobile vehicle, this helicopter. Good helicopter drivers can do a ton of damage with this vehicle. So let's see what they're able to do. And again, we're seeing multiple different types of warfare already at the very beginning of this map. And so far, you're right, the attackers, they've got their legs on the point, but they haven't fully captured it. Slowly but surely tracking their way towards B.
Yeah, definitely working out pretty well so far. Again, you kind of mentioned it earlier in the day as well. You don't really want to drop below around, what was it, like 120 tickets. You want to kind of stay pretty healthy, so that way when you do capture that first point, you go on to the next one with another full supply of tickets. So right now they were taking that at around 150 tickets, but I can't lie, the defense is putting up that return push that we've seen throughout the day so many times. So shout out to the defense for kind of pushing them back, even though they were close to capturing them.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. Continue to pay attention to our live counter, and almost stalled out on the point somewhat. Finally, the attackers getting a little bit more value. Should push this thing into neutral territory shortly. That's a lot of red on the point. This could be the first or the last push on point A that sees some value. Boats in the water come swinging in and immediately get wrecked. This is the interesting part of the terrain, is that there's some positions where boats and land vehicles can traverse, and that is one of them. That small little canal there. Looks like our IFV has won that battle. Because of that, we've lost the ship on the side of the attackers.
Yeah, you imagine that was actually a big fight right there. You could see the ship knew it was taking damage. It tried to get out. A last shot to go ahead and actually take out that IFV, but unsuccessful. So that's going to be a net win for the defensive side for sure. And as I say that, the attackers, they do go ahead and pick up the first objective there. Of course, that's that's pretty much almost guaranteed. It feels like a lot of times, right? Because it is just so close to where they actually spawn in. The defender's not able to put up a any meaningful, what feels like at least a meaningful defense right there, right there. They should have full tickets for this push on to B.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Now, what I am not seeing, I didn't see it in the kill feed, but what I am not seeing is the jet anywhere. There's a chance it was already taken out. There are some AA guns on the map that maybe somebody could have used to take down the jet quickly if they were a bit careless of a driver, but we'll check in on that if we do see it in the skies. Maybe it's still up there, but I think our attackers still have that helicopter is what you're seeing up in the air. Nice angle here for Bunny Quid, Madison, this crew. Playing pretty well, but yeah, I'll be very curious to see if they can hold B. Again, this is a single point, so we're not moving to B1, B2. It's just B, and we'll move into the C sectors.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about the jet for a second, right? When you think about all of the vehicles, we know how easy it is for some of our competitors to do damage to vehicles. They just know how. All of the vehicles in the game can pretty much be repaired, but I think the jet seems almost impossible, right? Because it's a one seat, right? So you can't have like an engineer over there, and I don't really know if you could land the jet to have an engineer go ahead and repair that. So, once damage is kind of done to the jet, it's pretty much permanent. So working at it was probably pretty easy for some of our competitors right now. And, the skies, though, they're not clear. There's still a helicopter up there, and I've seen some nasty things done with a helicopter. But that thing being up there does worry me for the defensive side.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes out on it. I know some of our land vehicles, IFVs, even some tanks, depending on angles. Man, we're getting so much value. I want to say that is... I didn't quite see the name. I saw NHP maybe, but one of our players on the defensive side is getting a ton of value with one of the tanks underneath, picking up ship after ship that moves into their view.
Yeah, great work there, right? Staying mindful of the fact that that is possible, of course, on this map. Sometimes it's very, very easy to kind of get distracted. Hey, I know they're kind of spawning over here, but, that very quick look to the left and towards the water is paying dividends right now for the defense. And hey, listen, you're kind of talking about the vehicle game being won over by the defense. I feel like 40 tickets down already. That's kind of happened very quickly. So this is seeming quite favorable early on for the defense side towards this B objective.
Bolatinia is in the tank on the attacker side, seeing some nice value in the kill feed. Got a tank destroyer on the side of the defense that maybe we could utilize. And here's a look at a helicopter POV. Don't look at it too long. You might get sick. But the helicopter driver's built different, making some moves in the air to avoid some fire and then punish their opponents down on the ground.
Always tough for me to actually jump in some of the aerial vehicles in any of these sorts of games. I never really could get a full grasp on it. So I do have a certain amount of respect for anybody that can kind of jump into one of those things and find it easily manageable. And, you know, we were kind of talking about how the defense was putting on quite a good, you know, strong hold, but I saw the flank kind of coming in. It looked like the flank was working for a second right there, but again, that is actually going to be thwarted as well. But big kills, a lot of them coming in for the attack all at the same time right there. You would imagine something's going to be made of this.
And it does look like, by the way, I'm seeing Sonic, who is the commander for the Legacy team, is the one in the helicopter, and that helicopter just got taken down right as I said that. Sorry, Sonic. Goes down. Some extra points there for Neo, who was able to pick up the helicopter out of the air, getting a commander kill. And we're going to have to regain. Sonic might have to go back to his feet and back to a gun in hand, but still some nice value at the heli. The problem is really not the value you want. I mean, I say it's an assured thing. It's not. We learned that. But I will say it's usually an assured thing. And so you really want to make sure you maintain vehicle control and maintain a vehicle life through B and even into C at least. So this is not looking good for the attackers losing their air.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them, right? They had a helicopter at one point. They had a tank at one point. And I don't see either of them on the field at all right now, right? So the vehicle game seemingly being won by the defense. Now, of course, we do know that at some point the attack side will get enough points to go ahead and get another wave of vehicles in. The thing about it is, until they get to that point, how many tickets will they bleed through? Because as of right now, having 99 left, you would imagine that they're going to have probably 100% less than 180 going into C if they end up securing B right now. So this is a very, very good win at the very minimum for the defending side.
Yeah, you're seeing how much value these tank destroyers can find, especially when you've got engineers locked on them. And in a competitive setting like this, like I said before in Group A, it's not even a strategy anymore. It's a necessity. You've got to have engineers on your team. But generally speaking, we're seeing a nice spread of operators based on preference or based on what your squad has been assigned to. Here's a nice flank from the Bear squad, finding an angle to pick up a couple in rotation and make their way to the point. Finally, the attackers, they found some footing. Took them a while, but they found quite a bit of footing, and it helps when you've got a route man like this playing the back angles and making sure the reinforcements don't arrive.
Emergency reinforcements.
Everybody at home might be like, what the heck is he looking at? Like, he just killed the guy. He's just like staring at the ground, looking for, you know, some respawn beacons lurking down there. It's a good spot to kind of hide them because they kind of blend in with some of the terrain right there. And yeah, that attack, it was very, very good. I actually thought they were going to go ahead and lock that one down. But again, another resurgence from the defensive side to go ahead and jump on that point to make sure they don't give that one up.
Nice win there by blocking. A couple attackers in the area, and he's holding his ground quite nicely. Unfortunately, won't be able to survive for too much longer. We've got another vehicle coming in for the defense. They've got a ton. So here's a look at the destroyer over the bridge. You've also got a boat down in the water kind of playing the low ground. This is mostly to help out to make sure nobody can flank through the water. And it looks like the attackers have got a tank on the far side all the way over to the other side of the water, playing the opposite side of the point where their spawn is. So if they can get this vehicle potentially active and keep it alive, this could change things. But you're right. I thought they were going to take it for sure. But defense did a really good job of getting back. Respawn beacon certainly playing a part of that. There's the tank.
Stepped out right there to go ahead and ping it. That was Neo being the commander right there. So letting his entire team know, hey, there's a tank right here. The tank is going to be taking some damage, but not enough to go down. I think it is going to get away. I think it can sneak around that corner over there and hopefully get a repair.
Wow, nice.
And yeah, sure enough. Oof, but it was close.
Yeah, I mean, it got good value. Very well done to get in, get value, and still get out. This kind of in and out gameplay you'll oftentimes see from vehicles because it's keeping that vehicle alive is almost as important as getting kills with it at all. So see these vehicles go in and out, back up, get their engineers on it, heal it back up to full, and get right back into the mix. Bunny Quid putting on a bit of a show for us. UTP trying to make a name for themselves.
Oh,
that was close.
Oh my god, that was almost crazy. If he would have got that kill after popping the ult right in front of him, that would have been insane. But crazy that Bunny Quid was actually able to go ahead and push that far into the fence and find some value at the very minimal out of that push right there. And yeah, I mean, hey, listen, It's not looking too good right now for the attacking side. Obviously, they still have to get the point. If they do get the point, they will not have that many tickets again to go on forward towards that C point. The fact that they're down to 30 right now, I'm a little worried, and I don't see the tank that they just had anywhere to be found. So I think they've lost that as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's a great breakdown. This is, frankly, a loss for the attackers in general. Even if they do at this point, it's going to be quite difficult to win the overall map. But again, determining the outcome of game 3, if it is a traded wins, will come down who gets priority based on how many points you capture. So even if you don't think you're going to be able to win the map, you've got to win this point and then just see what happens from there. Sai's going to make that very difficult, picking up his allies and winning the gunfight.
Artillery barrage incoming.
A hip fire build. Don't see those often in warfare, because usually you do get some situations where you do have to take some of those mid to long range battles, right? So a scope is often very helpful, but you know, finding a spot like this where the attackers are kind of coming around the corners right into your little hip fire, working out very, very well so far. Yeah, he's finding so much value.
This is great, playing some of the CQB positions inside this fortress. 5 lives remaining, folks. Don't catch it by surprise. This is gonna be a win for the defense. A perfect hold. Only one big push that really had the defense shaking at all, but a quick recovery means the defense is gonna win on point B. The Avengers, living up to their namesake, came in at the right moment. The heroes of the map. Cyclone is theirs, at least on the defensive side. Very well done from this team.
Yeah, I mean, that looked incredible. I don't know what guy earlier said we were going to see an attack-decided win today, but that guy is a little silly, looking a little silly right now. Of course, one more opportunity to go ahead and pull that one out, but the Avengers making Cyclone look very, very easy for the defensive side of things. And honestly, I'm pretty surprised. Honestly, you know, I thought coming into this map, I feel like the attackers, they have such a great opportunity with all of the vehicles that they can kind of spawn in on that map. Being the helicopter, like I said, I've seen the helicopters do some insane things, making it such a hard, kind of like thorn in the side for all those vehicles on the defensive side. But again, no value kind of being found from that helicopter after point A was captured. And yeah, after that, we know how important the vehicles are. The vehicle game was down for the attackers. It was up for the defenders. And after that, it was just smooth sailing.
Yeah, and I gotta say, it looked like the Avengers were reading like the art of war. They were taking care of all of the fronts of battle. It really did look like a well-oiled machine for a team that as an entire team of 20 never played together, right? These are all teams that are brand new to playing each other, squads that are well-defined and well-experienced with each other, but teams that are brand new. They looked so strong. Everybody had their roles, they had their positions picked out, and they played it perfectly. Because you've got to remember the defense, they won the water battle before they even got a ship out onto the map. And then when they did get a ship on the map, nobody could play low side without getting obliterated from the attacking side. So what it did is it forces the attackers to come in from one angle and one angle only. And when that's the case, the attackers hardly ever will be able to win with a really tough chokehold like that the defense put on. Let's take a look back on some of the replays. You can see what I'm talking about. This certainly was a defensive victory. We did get through at least 1 point this time around, Vivid. Point A, a little bit of a different story. Went decently quick. Found some nice success on it pretty early.
I like the fact that you go ahead and mention that, right? Something that we've kind of seen earlier on in the day, that first point kind of being the hold here, of course, you know, transition that over to the second point during this instance of things, but we could be seeing a little bit of a repeat of things that we saw happen for Group A. We'll have to see how that all plays out. But yeah, the Avengers just looking very, very strong on things that, you know, there was like, yeah, like you mentioned before, there was one good push towards the B objective right there, and it was actually done with no vehicle. So I was like, oh wow, they're going to do this without vehicles. They're going to go in the C. They're going to have all of their vehicles ready. But yeah, I mean, the defense, I think 2 times during that game, had 2 great counter pushes onto the points that they were defending, and after that, it was all done and dusted. The Avengers, they take game number 1.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot. Now, I will say, too, not only winning in all parts of the warfare, from water to air and everything in between. They're also winning down in the trenches with some of those CQB weapons. I want to shout out that UTP squad. We saw quite a bit in those highlights, all playing really tight sight lines, really close hip fire build weapons, and just running the routes to make sure nobody can come in from the bottom side of point B. So well executed from UTP. They got some fans in the chat as well. So shout out to that squad. We'll see what they're able to do on the attacking side here in a moment. Folks, we're going to be headed back to Cyclone, and sides will swap. The Avengers going to have to go onto the attack this time around. And yes, they may find themselves at least somewhat successful if they get past B, but to win it right here and to win it all and move to the finals, they've got to take every single point. We'll see if the attackers can do it for the first time in Season 3 Warfare. North American Semifinals. We'll be right back in just a moment for the second half of Group B.
The pain you feel is a gift of awareness.
Artillery barrage incoming. Artillery barrage incoming.
Well, welcome back. Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare in a semifinals. We are partway through Group B. We've already done Group A. We just finished our first map of Cyclone. And Group B, it went to the Avengers. They are on top right now. And Vivid, they have a chance to prove you correct. If they can win the attacking side here, they win Group B and make you look like a genius.
Come on, Avengers. Let's go ahead and see a nice little push on the attack side of things. There's a clean sweep through the defense here. Nah, I doubt that'll happen. We've talked about how strong the defense is all night. It would be kind of crazy to see them go ahead and steamroll that. But yeah, it would be kind of cool to see that too. But it would also be cool to see Legacy kind of bounce back after that and find themselves a strong footing as well. Taking a look at some of the leaderboard. You know what's crazy is that I'm looking over towards this win right here, right? 34 kills I see in the second place spot there. We played like only 2 points, right? We played through
Yeah.
point A about, like not very long into it, and then pretty much all of point B. And I feel like for a couple of our members over there to have 30 plus kills is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I mean, you're seeing the highest kill tallies on the left side on our losing side, the attackers. It looks like, I think it is Luna who picked up 21 kills overall. But overall, decent score lines for the attackers. They just couldn't quite piece everything together. I would say I would look for a bit more revives, but it actually is just more spread out on the attacker side. You see 33, 25, 27, 19, 19. Like, we got a lot of folks running. I see Binyi down there running Stinger, even though it's a low score, solid amount of revives. So interesting stats from both sides, but of course, oh my goodness, wait. Utter domination in the kill category. You're definitely right. I mean, those 30s that we saw are impressive, but overall, this is unreal. 100 and what? No, 90? I think it's 90 kill difference, basically. That's a lot of kills for a 2-point game. I mean, that's kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like, hey, listen, the Avengers won. They have more kills. Yeah, that's going to be kind of obvious, but that is even a bigger kill disparity than we saw amongst like Group A when we kind of saw that stomp kind of happen over there. So yeah, the kills were definitely flowing in way more for the defense for the Avengers than it was for the Legacy, but an opportunity to go ahead and prove that it was strictly because of the size, right? Hey, Legacy, you feel like your attack was not that good. It's time to prove it on the defense. Cyclone is up again right now. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that we've played, 4 games and we have not seen the attack side kind of find their footing yet.
Yeah.
Game number 5, is that going to be the one?
I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting, too, because I will say, like, traditionally speaking, the 2 maps we rolled are pretty defense-heavy, right? We have Cyclone, which defense really strong on, and then you also have Cracked, and the defense is really strong on that as well because of the way it's designed. So, generally speaking, it makes sense that defense is winning. But what I was looking back in our leaderboard, one thing I saw in there that was super interesting as well is that we're hyping up UTP. They were playing some really, really good warfare gameplay in the low side, getting Route Man getting paid, as it were, right? They're picking up a lot of people on the low side of the map, picking up anybody trying to flank, and really playing heroes for their team, winning 1v multiple situations. 3 out of 4 of their players were nearly at the bottom of the leaderboard, but all of those players had double-digit kills. That can't be the same on the attacking side. On the attacking side, there were like 15 of the players almost that were in single-digit kills. On the defensive side, only 3 players had single-digit kills. So it wasn't just some of our top players picking up a crazy amount of kills. Just overall, front to back, the defensive side, everybody put up way more kills and way more points. And so we'll see if that was a fluke, a defensive advantage, or maybe this Avengers team really is the Avengers. We'll see.
I mean, I love the fact that you go ahead and point that out, right? Because it seems like there was just a very big individual skill disparity, right? And, obviously, when you're on a team that's kind of rolling and doing well and you guys are winning the match, like, yeah, you can kind of argue that some of those kills are easier to pick up for sure, but not to that degree. So, yeah, maybe the Avengers just has that edge for sure. But, jumping into things here, Legacy, they've got a lot to prove if they want to keep that intact. Their legacy, indeed. Point A, we saw this one go down early. We'll have to see what the Avengers can do and see if they can pick it up maybe even faster.
Yeah, I like that. Well, again, if you haven't noticed, we have swapped, like we said. The Avengers were in green. They're now in red. All of our attackers in red. This is the team to watch. The defense, Legacy. Let's see if they can get their feet underneath them and try to stabilize back out. Again, this is about building chemistry, but you don't have a lot of time to do it. A single best of 3. This is a must-win game for the defense right now in order to tie things up and take it to game 3. As you can see, the value of Tempest on your screen. Me and 4 able to stay alive and pick up a couple kills, but trying to take care of this lower side of the map, the underground.
He's done a great job, actually, of establishing some control down here. And, yeah, I mean, Victory Unite, it's actually very, very tough because you can see how long it takes for your HP to regen, right? Once you kind of get into one of those fights, sometimes it feels like you're out of the fight for so long because it does take longer in this game mode. And we were kind of seeing that right there for me and 4. But eventually it does go back to full HP and, hopefully maintain some of that control over the tunnel so that way eventually they can make use of that staircase out towards the A point. But course, we know how attack works here. One angle is not going to do it. You're going to need multitude of angles. And right now, I'm not really seeing much control for the attack side of things. They do have the air dominance right now. I have been seeing some helicopter kills come in, as well as some jet presence. So they got that going for them.
Yeah, they got some basically shelling on the point with the jet, just throwing missiles downrange onto the point to try to clear an opening for the attackers on foot to try to push forward. Unfortunately, there's a barrel stuff for the side of the defense that pays off. But you're right, not really an opening yet. We'll see if they can maybe even find one on the low side here. You can see them all coming up from the shoreline. Actually playing for the flag now. Our first kind of foot in the door, first presence on the point, and great value over the top.
Yeah.
What a great call here from Owen to play the high side. And because they had so many bodies on the low side, everybody looking down to the coast, Owen was able to pick up like 5 or 6 there. That was wild.
You know what's crazy is I think one of the strategies that I've actually seen before in one of my matches, and when I saw it, I was amazed. I had never seen it before. You know, you can have somebody kind of jump out of a helicopter and kind of parachute down and kind of, you know, get this flank going on. I think that's what just happened. And a lot of the defenders were actually distracted a little bit on the back side of the point over there. And as soon as that happened, it looked like Owen started to get so much value on the front side of the point right there. So another one of those opportunities where, you know, some presence is kind of made from one of our teammates, and then boom, on the other side of things, it starts to kind of, you know, roll and snowball for the side of things. Although it feels like there's no defenders on the point, and I don't know why it feels like A has taken forever to capture.
Yeah, slowly but surely getting it, and there it comes through. The attackers finally get it. They do it without losing much of anything. They're going to get all those lives back, have full lives going into the next point. This is where the opposition was thwarted. This is where the Avengers held the line. Last point was on point B, so this is a big one. And much like I was talking about in Cracked, it is a momentum-based game. Once you have the momentum on your feet, you have the momentum, the wind in your sails, if you will, you better push it all the way to the finish line. And so you're going to see the attackers swing at this point as fast as humanly possible and not let the defense get a true setup. It could be a very quick cap on B to go into the C points if they can find some room to work with, and especially if they can find these vehicles from the air.
As of right now, it seems like everything's kind of even to me, right? When the Adventures kind of defended, right? Legacy, or when the Avengers defended, yeah, Legacy kind of went into B. They had 180 tickets. They had the helicopter alive. They had a tank alive. I will say the Avengers do have that jet alive, which was not alive for Legacy when they were attempting to attack right here. So I do believe it looks a little healthier right now in terms of how everything is for the Avengers, but it can turn so quickly.
Yeah, look at this point, though. The attackers have fully... I mean, this is what I was talking about. When you've got the momentum, especially with the tank at your backside, you've got a jet helicopter in the air. They are getting onto this point ASAP, and the defense can't find any angle. The only angles they have right now are a tank destroyer in the back, which is getting peppered, by the way. I think maybe from the jet. I'm not sure. Yes, it looks like our jet is picking up a couple kills right now. Wow. This boat is their last hope of vehicle gameplay, and well, boats are good, but you can't drive that thing all the way onto the point. So you're going to sit there and watch it be captured. All of a sudden, the Avengers showing us that they can do it on defense, they can also do it on attack.
And I blinked, and you started to mention how they were all over the point. I was like, what? And they had 178 tickets when they started to take the point right there. So seemingly investing almost nothing at all. And as you can see right here, the Bear Squad trying their best to go ahead and get some lock-ons going to the helicopter and the jet. But the fact that they're both up in the sky is very, very worrisome. And as I say that, as we tune back into the troops on the ground, B has actually been reclaimed by the defenders right now, and they're making their little counter push, similar to how the Avengers did it on the defensive side.
Yeah, it was just in the nick of time, too. They went through the low side, were able to get enough bodies on the point to stagnate that timer or that meter from closing all the way, and then they just were able to outswarm and have more people on the point to retake it all the way back to neutral. Now, it is going to be somewhat stalemated right around neutral now as the attackers find their way to start pulling on the proverbial tug of war, if you will, but this one is over a single point, so it's going to be a much more aggressive fight. And we'll certainly end up with somebody on the ground as we move into C, as finally some vehicles, yes, finding value, but also some vehicles getting blown up.
Oh, great two-piece here. Coming in, going for the third as well. Very, very close, but nonetheless, I think there was a stinger on the other side of things, so those revives are probably going to come in right now. And B is still not captured, although it looks very, very close. And as I say that, there it is. The final tick comes in, and yeah, this is looking very, very scary. The Avengers look good, right? When you kind of talk about how close this is to when we saw Legacy try to attack, it's really not close at all. I mean, the vehicle health for the Avengers right now is just way better. I mean, they've got the jet, the helicopter, and a tank alive going into C with full tickets. They look good.
Yeah, they look really good. I think C will be a decent, maybe not easy, but it'll be decently easy considering all of those advantages. And again, it's a momentum game. Swing on this point as fast as humanly possible. Get the bodies in there before they can set up. You're seeing some vehicles already finding some value, getting inside. So here we go. A fight above, a fight down below. As per the usual, you got to have some CQB guns. This one trying to be used at a little bit longer of a range. And said, okay, maybe I need to get a bit closer, or maybe let them get closer to me. UTP looking strong in the kill category, finding a couple. They finally get cut down.
All right, I've been convinced I might be copying the loadout later. I think I've seen way too many kills with that MP7 Hipfire build to go ahead and disregard it anymore. But yeah, C is going to be one of those points, right, where you talked about it earlier. Cyclone as a whole is going to have multiple layers. So you're going to be outside, you're going to be inside, you're going to be underground, and everything like that. C kind of feels like, to me, it has all three of those. So it'll be interesting to see how you kind of split up your 20 players on your team, right? What side of that do you want to defend or attack from?
That's right. We're seeing some revives come through. These are super valuable. And those tickets or lives will be counted for their overall tally. So they've only used 14 going into this point. Saw a couple line up for them, but unfortunately there's another one in the corner flanking. So a tank goes indoors to try to clear things out. I like this play from the attackers. They are slowly but surely commanding and taking space on the map, using these vehicles to open things up. And you can see it in the kill feed there. Looks like, I think it's Swell is up in the plane still, finding some value on the ground.
It seems like they've completely cut off the respawn kind of choke point here with the tank. The presence is going to be too much, right? The defenders cannot get towards the point right now. And, you know, as I say that, it looked like the defenders were going to kind of get a pretty strong foothold over the point. And yeah, no, they are actually gaining on it right now. So they are making good work. I mean, goes 160 tickets. Like,
yeah,
it's happening fast.
It's happening fast, and it's happening very cleanly for the Avengers. This really does look like they prepped. Again, teams were created about a day ago when all things were said and done. The draft finished up. Everybody knew who was on whose team. Maps were given out. They've had a little bit of time to prepare, but not a lot of time. Because of that, putting on a masterclass of what looks like a masterclass of execution on the side of the Avengers. I'm not sure if it's a misstep by Legacy or if it's more so a credit to the Avengers and what they've been able to put together. But either way you look at it, the Avengers are the better team. Again, to re-explain this, they've already done enough, and they also 2 tanks on the point. Yeah, it makes sense that they captured it. C goes inside of the Avengers. To explain, though, they've already done enough to be priority selection. They're priority pickers going into round 3 if there is a game 3. But to go to a game 3, Legacy's got to win the map. And unfortunately, with moments like that, can't get a tank down. This is not looking good for Legacy.
Yeah, tough break. I mean, when you're the engineer of the team and you're kind of shooting your rocket and it feels like, you know, you shoot it at one tank and then another one kind of comes around the corner. You're like, man, what can I do, right? It also requires a lot of coordination because when there is 2 tanks, you can't just call out, hey, you know, destroy the tank. It's like, well, all right, I'll shoot at this tank. And then if your other engineer shoots the other tank and you're kind of splitting up the investment of the rockets, then yeah, they're just not going to be as powerful than if they were invested onto the same tank. So the momentum is definitely steaming and rolling right now for the Avengers. But again, on Cyclone, we're actually going to be entering our first double objective sector right now, D1 and D2. All the previous points have only featured one singular flag, so maybe that's going to be the difference, right? Maybe the Legacy team is a little bit better at splitting up their resources between points and playing that tug of war game that we saw before. You know, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Hey, look, we saw the same thing. Squirtle Squad, we were kind of clowning on them as well, and they were able to clutch it up. All you got to do is win the map, and you still got a chance going into game 3. Winning these maps on the attacking side is quite difficult. Now, these are the points I was talking about. You basically have 2 separate points that are not adjacent to each other, but across from each other on opposite sides of this interior water canal. It is really, really cool stuff. And so you'll see the ships. You actually saw the defensive ship play kind of in between these 2 points with the kind of commanding the canal. Almost died for it. Had to back up and regain. But either way you look at it, very cool setup in the way you play this. Again, will probably be a tug of war. It looks like the attackers are going for D2 first. The defense quickly realize it because they're on D1 and there's only a couple bodies here. So we've got to take a look at D2, see if we can take it back. So far, they're able to hold on for a moment as tanks and many of the other vehicles are trying to figure out how do we even get involved in a lot more CQB on these points.
Obviously, you know, we're kind of paying attention to how much progress is being made if we're on D2 at the top of the screen right now, but we're tuning in with Owen right now. We've seen some incredible plays from him before, and that's going to be followed up with that one right now. The flank kind of coming in, establishing control over top of the giant room that overlooks D1 right now, and off of that single individual play, right, taking out 3 defenders in some of the key spots to actually go ahead and defend this point, right? Very, very good from Owen right there. So D1 is definitely going to be favored towards the attackers as it currently stands. We'll have to see if Legacy can kind of pull in one of those, you know, pushes back towards the point right now.
Yeah. A little bit of blood on D2. Everybody swung back to D1. The classic gameplay loop. It's just a matter of who wins the game of tug of war. Defense, they've set up pretty nicely on D2 from what we can tell. Playing kind of the backside here. Again, this is going to give them a lot of room to work, to move up as a unit rather than being all scattered about and just losing a series of 1v1s. So D1 officially lost if you're the defensive side. You can come in here and either play sneaky, you know, trade it back if the attackers swing over to D2, or just set up a true line of defense. But the attackers have a couple tanks outside that really aren't getting a ton of value. You'd like to keep them for later rounds. They're going to pick up any stragglers that try to go around the buildings, but not going to get nearly as much value the last couple points. And it's probably one of the reasons the defense is actually able to hold decently well here on these 2 points.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? The vehicles, we mentioned it, they were such a big part of the pushes for A, B, and C objectives, but now their impact has definitely dwindled. The fact that these points are, you know, buried within these buildings and you can't drive those vehicles in here. And yeah, that being said, right, the defense does seemingly make a successful push on to D1. So obviously there's still a lot of work to be done, but the question kind of comes in then goes, when do the tanks potentially be surrendered, right? When do you kind of need that extra manpower on one of these points?
Yeah, I mean, what they are doing is you're seeing them pop up in the kill feed every once in a while. What they are doing is they are kind of cutting off a path that the defense can take to move around some of these points. And so at least you know that you have control of an area, certainly not as valuable of an area as you had on some of the other points of the tanks. So I think you hold on to them, but even still, you're right, it is certainly an issue. And I'm also getting word from production that yes, the jet is, you haven't seen the jet probably pop in the kill feed more than maybe once. The jet's doing the same. The jet's still outside, just saying, all right, good luck, guys. Hope you get it. Now, as the lives dwindle, I'm sure they're going to make some judgment calls of like, hey, even that one extra person could make a difference here. Yes, you guys are cutting something off, but yeah, interesting play from the attackers, just trying to hold these vehicles on for the next point.
Yeah, I mean, that's 3 people that are kind of outside, and you would kind of argue, yeah, I get what you're saying with the whole, yeah, let's control an area. You would imagine that one of those vehicles could do that, right? So
yeah, sure.
Maybe I think there's a pretty good argument that at least 2 of those vehicles that are being held on may be wasted out there because kind of overlapping those vehicles, trying the same spot when they could definitely do it themselves. But still 109 tickets for the attackers to kind of work with right now. We'll have to see if they can change anything up right now because, you know, we've seen them make progress onto one of the points, but both times, you know, D2 being recaptured right now by the defense, they've been pushed off of it, so they cannot establish a foothold permanently onto either of the points right now. Ooh, great spot.
Yeah, I like this spot a lot. Throw the drill charge, nice.
Oh, well, and then
Well,
you jump-
never mind. Hey, it's chaos, baby. It's warfare. It's all good. Still up. Still able to make some plays. And able to get a couple revives here. Nice play with the Stinger, but overall, they are holding this point, and you've got an urgent deployment time going down right now. I would assume this is the defensive side doing this to make sure they maintain control. Nice take here.
Yeah, D1 going to be taken. Well, I have to say the attack side can hold it because they have had it before. And is that they're gonna be,
they've got the tanks in the water? They just said, all right, fine, we'll come help. We're going to put the tanks at the bottom of the water so that maybe we can try to come back to these later and nobody else can get them. That's funny.
That's very, very smart. I'm happy to see that they did that, right? Because that one makes us kind of look smart because we were kind of talking about how whether or not they should ditch those things and get on the dang point. But two, also a kind of cool way to actually go ahead and abandon them right now. But still a lot of work to be done. We'll have to see if the push can come in. 2 extra players going to be joining the attack now for the attack side at least. Who knows if the jet is kind of still flying around, but a lot of work to be done.
That's right. Tug of War in action. Neo looking like Neo on the map. I mean, the amount of times this guy's gone to 1 HP and stayed alive is pretty impressive. And finally, well, unfortunately, sorry, dude. I started talking about you, and that means you're going to die. But the squad maintaining the same position up on this kind of overlook. I was going to say catacombs. It's not really catacombs. It's more of a catwalk. That's the word I'm looking for. I like this overlook position if you're able to maintain control of it. Both teams want it, though.
That was a huge kill from Wag right there. Blood King was about to get like 3 revives off.
Yeah.
And Wag actually dove into the smoke and made sure those did not happen. So that's going to be a swing of like 4 tickets actually against the offense right there, simply based on what Wag just did. Those little small impact plays right there, definitely going to be the difference right now. And as you can see right there, that's just going to swing things over, right? They're going to have control over the top of D1 and potentially go ahead and make things worse for the attacking side very, very quickly.
Yeah, again, this position is so powerful. So you're right, not only preventing the revives, but also taking over a powerful position, just winning the gunfights. I've seen these guys win a bunch of tournaments. They are Delta Force Global League champions in the past under a different full roster. They've changed out a couple people, changed a couple names, but Rasta, Wag, and Snarf have been playing together for a very long time at the very least. I'm sure their fourth is doing a lot of work as well, and they're finding a ton of value on the catwalk.
Yeah, 50 tickets left to work with right now. We are seeing progress towards D2, and that's actually going pretty fast, and the attackers finally get some value in terms of vehicles. I can see the boat kind of going through the waterway that is in between the points right now, so they're trying to pick up some of the kills with that. And oh my gosh, I look top right, somebody is in the jet. Somebody just got a kill with the jet. They're still flying around out there.
It took them another 5 minutes, but they got another one. I like it.
Jeez.
Again, like if the attackers are able to do it, if the attackers are actually able to execute, then it's worth staying in those vehicles. You can keep them for the next point, but that's a lot of what ifs in a 20v20 matchup. You make it 20v19, 20v18. It doesn't sound like a major number, but it certainly can make a difference on these points. But the attackers, they've got a push going, and this could be one of their last if they're not careful. Technically trying to play for both right now. D2 in jeopardy. D1 easily being given. This is the moment the attackers need. They cap D1. Now they're going to sprint for D2 and try to execute. It's got to be close, and it is. They get it. Avengers thwarted for a little while, but finally able to capture both points and move on their merry way. It's one of the last few. This is going to be a tough one, and we'll see if maybe holding on to the jet makes a difference going into the next point.
I love the adjustment from the Avengers. Obviously, we did see we were trying to be extremely greedy, keep up all of their vehicles at the same exact time. Ended up sacrificing 2 tanks for that. They still have the jet, and as you can see, like Goj was saying, if they can get through D and maintain the jet, it's going to have some impact. And instantly out of the gates, the boat is down for the defenders. He's got to be so many. He's going to be like, what do you mean you're still in the jet?
That's 100%. And also, Shout out to the patience from our jet operator. I mean, it's just so fun to use. Maybe that's why, rather than like a strategic play. But either way you look at it, this is what I was talking about. This is what the nature of this map that is so interesting is the progression of points. You're seeing a ton of kills go on both sides right now, but the progression of points going from out in the open to more interior to only interior to back out in the open. If you were able to hold on to your vehicles in those moments where you weren't that helpful, all of a sudden you're about to be massively impactful going into the last points, E1 and E2.
You know, I can't lie. Obviously, things are looking good right now for the Avengers. Obviously, the vehicles are doing good on that front and everything like that. But man, it is a rough transition from the D objectives to the E objectives. I think they only got back like 40, 50 tickets. They're at 80 tickets right now to go ahead and pick up 2 objectives. And as I say that, they actually start working on both of them at the same exact time.
Yeah, this is one of those strategies that is a little bit more high risk, but it has to be just because they only have 80 tickets. They need to attack both points at the same time, and you have 2 things that can happen. Either the defense says, okay, we got to hold at least one of these. There's enough lives that we're going to all mass up on E2 and take it back and give E1. That's a big win for the attackers. Or the defense also splits their forces, goes to protect both, and either loses that or wins that. If the defense wins that, that might be the end of this game. I don't know if the attackers are going to be able to regain and re-push, especially if they lose vehicles in that transition. So it is a little bit more high risk. It seems to be working for them, though. They're winning both points. The defense seems scattered, uncoordinated, and all of a sudden, they're losing both points at the same time as they move into the neutral category and finally are getting a bit of footing.
I mean, yeah, it's got to feel very, very hard for the defensive side of things right now. We kind of got the shot of the tank sitting up on the hill outside of E2, literally just shooting in missiles all the time. And you know, as we say that, it looked very, very good for the attacking side of things. The kills are actually being found by the defense right now. 20 tickets are going to be down. Rasta can't pick up the final shot needed to go ahead, and the wraparound finally is going to be able to finalize that one right there. And what a big swing. E1, E2, back in almost full control of the defense, and now 55 tickets, right? We blinked, and 20 tickets disappeared.
Rasta was putting the team on his back there. Good grief. I knew that team was strong. I knew that squad was talented, but I mean, he picked up, I want to say that was 6 or 7 kills off of a single life on top of E2. It was almost single-handedly preventing the attackers from finding any footing on E2. Finally, they do. Here's a nice push from the attackers. They lose their 1 or 2 in transition with a couple of these artillery barrages that are coming down, but they're able to maintain control over E2. They should take it into the neutral category. Ooh, but you're right. 50 lives and counting. We are running out of runway here.
Yeah, Wag's actually finding so much value from the barrage right now. So just a whack-a-mole game if you're the attackers right now. Try to dodge the random missiles kind of barraging down onto the point right now, but it seemingly is going to be in full control of the attack side.
I saw the jet fall out of the sky. Jet finally dead. I saw the body of the jet just hit the water there and explode. So jet finally out of the sky. Maybe a bit of breathing room for the defense. Maybe on E1. I'm not sure if it was somebody grabbing an AA gun and shooting it out of the sky. There is one over here. We saw it very briefly. Or if maybe just well-timed AT-4 missiles or something in between. We'll see. But either way you look at it, that's a win for the defense, and they are winning back, it looks like, E2. And we've got our first guided missile coming in. This map has gone on long enough. The first one of the NA semifinals. We'll see where it lands. And I want to say it was called in by our defensive side. Oh, no. That is a bummer. That was an offensive missile onto a defensive tank. See ya later, buddy.
Oh, man. I believe the guided missile was actually called in, of course, by the attack side, and I think it was the jet operator that actually called that in.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Saving those points up for the entire game, and after being shot out of the sky, was finally able to go ahead and call that one in. But yeah, that guided missile maybe giving them some momentum, right? E2 now being taken, but E1 still being defended.
Yeah, what a turn of tides, too. I mean, that was so... sometimes when you call those guided missiles, it looks like we got a couple more coming. There's going to be a string of them as well. Usually commanders will call these in because they're the ones getting a lot of points for their team. But also, yeah, anybody that's going on big kill streaks. Here's another guided missile going to land on the point or outside the point over here on E1. And it doesn't find any kills in the kill feed. Now, usually these guided missiles, yes, we count them as like a huge win if you see like 15 people get killed by one or whatever, but the value of using a guided missile to kill a vehicle, if you can somehow manage that, even just pushing people off the point for a moment. If you're an attacker and you're on a point and they've got a chance to win the game here very soon, just a guided missile to force them off for a moment, even without a kill, a problem as we see more tank battles.
Huge win for the defensive side of things right there. They're going to take out the offensive tank that has been raining down on E2. That tank that was sitting up on the hill finally decided to come down, and as soon as it did, it got blown up. So now it's going to be a big fight over E2. You would imagine that both sides start to invest everything over towards E2. 10 tickets remaining for the offensive side.
Gosh.
The defense has to know that they're going to throw everything they possibly can at this. Somebody's probably going to sneak over to E1 on the defensive side of things with a guided missile. Which side called it in?
This could win or lose the game depending on where it lands and what value it finds.
Artillery barrage incoming.
Nothing.
Ooh, wow.
Looks like it was called in by the attackers, and it tried to just force people off of E2, and that's what I was talking about. You're not going to find the kills on E2, but you do force the defense off the point, which means you're in control. You could force this into overtime. If you don't capture this, you still have a chance to win. This is for the win. If the Avengers capture both points, the Avengers win Group B, and the Avengers go to the finals. Last stand for Legacy.
Yeah, but take a look at it, right? You have the Viren right now in front of him. We can see it. He can. There's so many green players running over towards E1. Right? We kind of talked about it. E2, everybody's going to run towards that because that's where they needed to go ahead and capture it. Everybody on the defensive side, they just ran right over to E1. There's nothing over here for the attack side of things. This could be a very easy take for them. But as I say that, the full swing comes in from the attack side.
We're winning the gunfights.
Right on them to go ahead and realize that. An incredible play right there to pick up a couple kills.
5 lives, but the attackers have full control.
Oh my gosh.
A blink of an eye, and this map has turned on its head. The Avengers are your champions of Group B. Vivid, you're a genius. We have our first attacking victory in the North American semifinals. The Avengers go 2-0. The Avengers move on to the finals.
What a way to close out the map right there. 5 tickets remaining. It looked like the defense have played the tug of war perfectly right towards the end of the match, but no, the individual gunfights came out seemingly for the Avengers right there to make sure that they had more players on the point to actually go ahead and capture that. So that's going to be a 2-0 sweep for the Avengers, but it was not easy.
It was certainly not easy. Yes, they got all the way to the last point, which is already a feat in and of itself on a map like this, especially in Victory Unite, where you don't have a lot of tickets. But even still, it was a nearly flawlessly executed in-game. When the tickets were down to 15 to 20 or so, the attackers set up flawlessly. They were able to take control of a single point. They had full possession and had a couple people back on E1. And then you saw those tickets go creeping down towards single digits. And all of a sudden, the defense scrambling said, we got to make the late game move. Let's trade points. We can take back this point, get us out of overtime, and just win right here. All we have to do is control E1. And you called it out perfectly. There were way more defensive units over moving into E1 than there were attacker units. And frankly, the attackers just outgunned them. I mean, it was I think it was not 2-1, but it was like a 50% more on the side of the defensive side. And the attackers just outgunned them. They just were winning 1v2s and 1v3s. And that was the difference maker at the very end.
I mean, yeah, absolutely incredible how close it ended up being towards the very end. And, you know, you got to kind of feel bad a little bit for Legacy because, you know, watching throughout that map, it felt like A, B, and C, they were just clean, easy sweeps from the Avengers. And finally, they started to put up a fight towards E and E, right? But you can only imagine if there's just a little bit of more of a fight, 5 tickets worth actually, and they would have actually gone ahead and won that map. But, you know, just great stuff from the Avengers. Honestly, if we want to go ahead and point out one thing that kind of separated these two teams, it was without a doubt the vehicle management, right? Making sure that all of their vehicles, especially the aerial ones throughout A, B, and C, stayed alive. And heck, the jet it stayed alive the entire game, pretty
Crazy.
much till the very last moment. So shout out to the Avengers. Their vehicle management throughout the entirety of this game was just that much better to go ahead and help them win our first attack side of the day.
Yeah, no, I love that shot. I mean, you just compare and contrast the two teams from the attacking side. Legacy on the attack, they lose their jet within the first point, like they lost it like at the very beginning of point B basically, and we see the jet on point E fighting for their lives, finding kills, and found so many that they were able to call in those guided missiles. Here's a quick look back on the E points in particular, and this is where for the first time in the semifinals at least, we see the guided missiles making big plays, one of which was right here. Taking down that tank on the backside is such a huge value add. A full tank down with the guided missile, point clear. They were able to find so much more room on the map. We see another big fight here where we're able to shoot down the engineers off the back of that tank, and then at the end you're gonna see a couple more guided missiles here. This guided missile here, everybody that was on the defensive side heard the guided missile called in. They said, well, we know where that's landing. We're backing off. We're playing for the other objective. It was enough to create breathing room, and the attackers took all the oxygen out of the map, and they were able to win in just the nick of time. What a finish, man. That was crazy. I really, really enjoyed Cyclone. That was a lot of fun.
I mean, Cyclone proved to be one of those maps where we just didn't know what was going to happen. It seemed like the attack side had it very, very easy throughout the first 3 points, and then man, did the defense put up a very strong fight towards those last two objectives. Very, very fun indeed, right? All of the vehicles kind of playing a part, all the different terrains, inside, outside, the water playing a big part as well. Very, very fun map.
Yeah, very cool stuff. We saw a lot of different maps today, and pretty impressed with everybody. I think generally speaking, it's been pretty cool to see some teams that we were like, oh my gosh, this is not balanced at all. We had, I was thinking back to Group A in particular. We got the Squirtle squad who was really struggling throughout the course of the first couple of maps. They barely hold on and force it to Game 3 and then win in Game 3. We saw, of course, them get thwarted in the very first map of Cracked without even getting a single point. And then we see go all the way distance onto Game 3. Then we see us go all the way the distance on Cyclone here, going all the way to the ending points with single-digit lives remaining. Like, we've pretty much seen everything there is to see in Warfare in terms of all the different scenarios that could play out. We even got an attacking win. I mean, this was a blast. We got everything under the sun. This was awesome.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting, right? When you take a look at how this is all going to play out, we have, our Group A winners, our Group B winners. They're obviously going to be in the finals next weekend. And I feel like on the couple of sides of the things, we saw the strengths of some of those teams kind of put on full display here. So, that might be something to kind of think about going into next weekend and when it all kind of plays out, right? How each map is going to play. If we have a game go to like the third set or something like that, if it's going to play a little bit differently, if maybe you decide to pick the map because you do not want somebody from Team Avengers to kind of be in that jet and kind of show that presence that they just did in like a match like this. So kind of the rolling over of what happened this weekend into next weekend will be very interesting to think about as well.
Well, yeah, no, I like that shout because at the end of the day, again, squads, they qualified for this event, right? They qualified for the semifinals through our in-game qualifiers. So they all know each other. They've probably been playing with each other for a very long time. The team overall, though, they're brand new. This team of 20 players has never played together. And so they've got a chance to build up more chemistry before the finals next week. But let's take a look back at some of the scores from that last game and see who some of our top fraggers were. As you do see, okay, first and foremost, gotta give a shout here over on the Looney Tunes squad. We've got INH3, who has 57 kills. That is unbelievable. But as expected on the losing side, on the Legacy squad side, Wag and Rasta were putting the team on their back, man. Snarf there as well, also on the Alien roster, all inside the top 5 overall in terms of score. But Wag and Rasta both with 46 kills as well.
Yeah, and of course from that Looney Tunes squad, like you called out, right, there's 57 kills. That would be your jet operator right there. So as much as we kind of saw him kind of flying around during that D objective, right, we were kind of questioning the value he was kind of getting. Yeah, probably not that much during that objective, right, being that everything was kind of inside. But even the fact that he was kind of idle for that time period still proved to be player with the most score on the map. So very, very good job. But you want to talk about, you probably saw what I just
see
saw
that
at the same exact time. Yeah, is it 120? Is that what you just
Yes,
saw? Because,
120 revives from Foxilia. What are we talking? That's the most I've ever seen by far. That's the highest number in that category I've ever seen in comp play. You got to remember, this is Victory Unite with low tickets. No wonder they were able to survive all the way to point E and literally entirely on this player's back. The only reason they even had a shot in the attacking side on Cyclone. 120 revives is insane. Holy cow. The highest on the defensive side was 55, by the way. So that's over double that number, which is insane. But here's a look at the scores and the kills. Woo, yeah, that's a big spread.
Yeah, definitely, right? And that spread kind of increased significantly right after that first game. We kind of saw that it was around about 100 and very quickly got up to actually well over 270, right? So that game right there was, you know, what felt like a stomp from the Avengers, at least in the kill category. We know that that wasn't necessarily the full story because the defense obviously did put up a very good fight towards the later half of that map. But yeah, the whole game is what kind of matters, especially when it comes down to the kills. So almost breaking that 1,000 kill mark. You know, and all things considered, when you think about how game one was very, very fast, that is very impressive.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's take a look at our bracket, though. We have our 2 winners of the semifinals, which means we've got our grand final set in stone. It's going to be Squirtle Squad and the Avengers facing off against each other. Are you a fan of the Syndicate, Mr. Wormy, and crew over there with Squirtle Squad? Or are you a fan of the Avengers and their impressive jet gameplay? I don't know, but it's going to be a dang good time. And we don't even know what maps we're playing yet. Those are going to be rolled random. And it's going to be so much fun. I'm really excited to see which of these 2 teams comes out on top and which of these 2 teams will be your champions of North America. Vivid, what a day, my friend. We, again, like I said, we saw everything under the sun when it comes to Warfare, a ton of different maps. What'd you think? Thanks for joining us with Warfare.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love the fact you go ahead and mention that, right? This is the first time I've actually hopped on for one of these Warfare, you know, seasons. I'm very, very happy that I did. The semifinals were awesome. It was super, super cool to see kind of the format as well. I really liked it because, you know, we had one match where it kind of led to that game 3. And then on the other side of things, right, we had a stomp 2-0. Very, very cool to see some of these teams kind of overcome the odds, right? Actually, in both games, I feel like, right? One side kind of winning on the attack side of things, and the other side in Group A, we saw them kind of hit that reverse sweep. Of course, only a best of 3, so the sweep is, you know, gonna. But you know, picking up those last 2 games to kind of overcome it. So it was super, super fun. It's cool to see how some of these players kind of come up with strats in Warfare game mode that I kind of play casually. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you guys are kind of doing over there. So very, very cool to see. I'm excited for finals next weekend. Thank you, Goj, for having me. Thank you, Delta Force gang, as well. It was super, super fun. And thank you to all of our competitors for playing today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Vivid, man. You crushed it. A lot of fun, and we'll see you again for the finals. But folks at home, I'm hoping to see you for the finals because, yes, this felt like a finals with how tight it was and some really great gameplay. I mean, people are ready for this. The finals are next weekend. It's going to be next Saturday, a week from today. However, interesting thing about next weekend is that we actually are going to have our European finals first. So if you're a Central Time Zone fan like myself, that'll be 11 a.m. Central Time will be our Europe finals. And then same time, we start at 6 p.m. tonight Central Time, same time for the North American finals, both on the same day. So we're going to be live almost throughout the course, the entire day. Next Saturday, you're not going to want to miss it. That's the 8th of November. And oh, just kidding. The Sunday. We're playing on Sunday. My bad. It's a week and a day. There you go. Next Sunday. If you're here on Saturday, you'll see it in the chat. You'll see all of our times. It's all scheduled all over the place. Hang out with us on Sunday. Watch both of those competitions. So it's going to be EU regional finals, and then it's going to be NA regional finals. And the reason it's not Saturday is we have a dev update coming up down the line. A dev live stream a week from today on Saturday, and then the Delta Force Global League finals on that Sunday. action-packed weekend there from Delta Force. You're not going to want to miss it all. New season, new update, new content, and a lot of words from the developer team behind the scenes on Saturday. Delta Force Global League Sunday. Folks, you're not going to want to miss any of it. But as per the usual, I have to thank you for being here. So I have to remind you that we couldn't do it without you, the viewer. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next weekend for a bunch of new content and also the finals of the Delta Force Global League Season 3. See you next week. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt very similarly. And then all of a sudden, the kill feed on the right.
No, he kept flanking, and that has established a very good line of sight where this could be the thing that goes ahead and win this point, right? As you can see right there, a lot of progress, very minimum value. Those vehicles from the attacking side have not stayed along for long at all. And now with kind of stopped this at all, the resist is over.
If not more times, if you're a Warfare fan. So you know some of these other points, HQ.
You know, B1 and B2 here on the second set of capture points. B1 is
cracked. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does make some sense. Is that holding both of these points is going to be
decisive battle here. You can see the attacking tank is already put down to about a quarter HP, and another is welcome, and somehow is taking a lot of return damage. Oh my god! I'm kind of poke his head in towards B2 right there, but you know,
a lot of these CQB positions with Seniva are very, very valuable to have that shield. And they're getting a little bit of work on it, but now it looks like actually the tank is moving in. And what it actually looked like happened is they went for a infantry push over to C2. We always lose the war of attrition if you don't execute it flawlessly.
So sure enough, here they come. They're going to go ahead and start running people over. They're going to try to recapture this point. That's going to be Asta TTV.
Wow.
They're kind of
making sure they maintain position in the vehicle and help his team take this point quickly. This is very well done from the attack.
That means they went ahead and captured that point very, very quickly. And as you can see right there, what's that? That head glitch that was kind of towards that one side over there where they actually come from. So that was a
strategy to what they did on B1 and B2 of Cracked. For C1's
been the name of the game over and over and over again for the division.
People are calling vehicles in. Can you shoot it down before it hits the ground? The answer is yes.
Feels like the most important part. They lost that quick, and it did not matter. D2 has been at for the division, right? They have that tank reestablished.
And in the final moments, holding on D1 and D2, a tank moves on to... They're now in red. All of our attackers in red. This is the team to watch. The defense, Legacy. Let's see if they can get their feet underneath. A great value over the top.
Yeah.
What a great call here from Owen to play the Avengers, showing us that they can do it on defense. They can also do it on attack.
And I blinked to how the Avengers did it on the defensive side.
Yeah, it was just, and then they would have more people on the point to retake it all the way back to neutral. Now, it is going to be somewhat stalemated, only interior to back out in the open. If you were able to hold on to your vehicles in those moments where it lands, and I want to say it was called in by our defensive side.
Oh, being defended.
Yeah, what a turn of tides, too. Finds
Artillery barrage incoming.
5 lives, but the attackers have full control.
Oh my gosh.
A blink of an eye in this match.